Chapter 1022. The situation in the subduing martial hall had reached a critical point. Even though Lu Jianghu had brought out so many good items, it was useless. Martial arts could not be mastered in a short period of time. Even if they comprehended it now, it was impossible for them to jump to the true fire spirit refinement realm. At this moment, someone suddenly came in to report that Situ Chi and the others had come to visit. Everyone present frowned. No one thought that Situ Chi and the others had come for a good thing. Everyone knew about the enmity between Situ Chi and Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu had attacked them more than once or twice. Now that Chu Xiu was in danger, Situ Chi and the others should be thankful that they did not hit him when he was down. They did not think that they were here to help. Although they belonged to the Lurking Devil clan, they did not think that they would let go of their enmity for the sake of the entire Lurking Devil clan. Compared to them, even the sects of the Bright Devil clan from the moon-worshipping cult were more reliable. Before Wei Shuya could say whether or not he would see them, a shout came from outside. Situ Chi and the others had barged in. There were a total of 5 true fire spirit refinement realm martial artists who had come in. Besides Situ Chi and Kuan Imo, the other 3 were the ones who had escaped from the primitive devil cave in the past. They were the 3 big shots of the devil path 800 years ago. No one knew how they had gotten together. Looking at them, Wei Shuya frowned and asked, "Situ Chi, what are you doing here?" Situ Chi smiled and said, "Elder Wei, don't be angry. I'm here to help. I've heard about your situation. It's not looking good. We're all from the Lurking Devil clan. How can we sit back and do nothing?" Although Senior Si Wuya is a cultivator from 800 years ago and has nothing to do with the Kunlun Devil cult, they're still from the Fiend path. They're willing to help at a time like this. Wei Shuya said indifferently, "Don't say such high-sounding words. Do you really have such good intentions?" Before Situ Chi could speak, Si Wuya, the former Grand Elder of the Ghost King sect, said, "The righteous path and the Fiend path are irreconcilable. We're all from the Fiend path. Is it wrong for us to help them? Of course, there's a small condition for us to help them. Now my Devil path lineage is divided into Bright Devil and Hidden Devil lineage. Even the Hidden Devil lineage is fighting their own battles. This is not good. That's why I want to emulate the system from 800 years ago and establish the alliance of the demonic path. Whether it's an individual or a sect, everyone can join. Naturally, everyone can also join. Wei Shuya, we'll give you a position as an alliance elder." Everyone's expressions darkened when they heard this. These fellows weren't here to add insult to injury. They were here to loot a burning house. The Hidden Devil clan itself was an alliance. Why would they need an alliance? But who was in charge of the Inma clan now? On the surface, there was no one in charge of the Inma clan, but in reality, the one who occupied the majority of the Inma clan's power was Chu Xiu. He could now be considered the true leader of the Inma clan. Si Wuya and the others wanted to form an alliance of the Fiend path. They were clearly trying to dig out the roots of the Lurking Devil progeny. Wei Shuya looked at Situ Chi and said coldly, "Situ Chi, don't forget that your clan used to be from the Holy Sect. What's the foundation of the Hidden Devil clan? We're the heirs of the Holy Sect. We established the Hidden Devil clan with the Holy Sect's heritage as our foundation. By helping them establish the alliance of the Fiend path, you're digging up the Hidden Devil clan's roots and the Holy Sect's roots. How can you face your ancestors if you do this?" Before Situ Chi could reply, Si Wuya said, "What do you mean by the Holy Sect? That was 500 years ago. The Kunlun Devil cult has been gone for so long. What's the point of carrying its name? You have to look forward. In terms of seniority, we're all older than your so-called Holy Sect." Lu Jiang, he suddenly sneered. He stood up and pointed a finger at Si Wuya's nose as he spat, F***CK. You. Motherf***ker. Si Wuya and the others were stunned. They did not expect Lu Jianghu would insult him in front of so many people and use such vulgar language. They were experts in the true fire spirit refinement realm. Whether it was now or 800 years ago, whether it was on the noble path or the fiend path, they were people of high status. Even if they had a deep grudge against each other, they would not curse each other the moment they met. Wuxia pointed a finger at Lu Jianghu. He was so angry that his hands were shaking. Preposterous! Preposterous! Lu Jianghu spat on the ground. He sneered disdainfully and said, "A bunch of wretches. When the sect master founded the holy sect, you idiots were like this. You won't shed a tear until you see your coffin. You'll only kneel and beg the sect master to spare your lives. The holy sect will last for 10,000 years. 10,000 years ago, if the holy sect did not exist, the fiend path did not have an orthodox lineage. However, ever since the holy sect was founded, 10,000 years later, even if the holy sect is no more, the fiend path is still the orthodox lineage. How dare trash like you come and dig at the foundation of the holy sect? Do you have a death wish?" As soon as Lu Jianghu finished speaking, the murderous aura around him surged into the sky. A rhythm resounded in the great hall. It was the sound of blood flowing. The expressions of Wuxia and the others changed. In the end, they did not make a move. They merely waved their sleeves and left. One of them scoffed and said, "Very well. Since you're so stubborn, I'd like to see if your holy sect can still save you when you're cornered by the noble path." After that, Wuxia and the others left with their tails between their legs. They were here to loot a burning house, not to fight to the death with Lu Jianghu and the others. The expressions of the others darkened. Clearly, they were disgusted. Qi and the others had completely shed all pretense of cordiality with the lurking devil progeny. They did not even want to think about saving face anymore. However, the lurking devil progeny still had powerful enemies with them. It would not be appropriate for them to attack them. At this moment, everyone looked at Lu Jianghu in surprise. They did not expect Lu Jianghu to have such a domineering side to him. All this while, they did not have much respect for the Hall Master of the Blood Devil Hall 500 years ago. Naturally, with Lu Jianghu's silly appearance, they could not bring themselves to respect him. However, today, he was domineering for once. He finally felt like an overlord of the fiend path. When Lu Jianghu saw the gazes on him, he could not help but smile wickedly. "If the heaven-devouring tiger doesn't show its might, do you really think I'm a garden cat?" However, his smile completely dissipated the imposing manner from before. The crowd could not help but shake their heads. Well, Lu Jianghu is still the same Lu Jianghu. The crowd did not have time to waste. Almost all of them were injured, so they had to make the best use of their time to recover from their injuries and deal with the next attack. At this moment, in the middle of Shangmang Mountain, there was a large number of camps. They were all people from the major factions. Some of them were rogue cultivators. In order to fight for fame and profit, they also joined the team to kill the fiends. Yunmengzi and Han Jusi stood at the forefront. As the people who were driving this operation, the two of them could be said to be the leaders of the righteous path sections. When they gave orders, they were even more in the limelight than Ling Yunzi and Lu Chonglu. It was fortunate that Ling Yunzi and Lu Chonglu were not narrow-minded people. Otherwise, they would have to fight amongst themselves before they could settle the matter. Looking at the surrounding scene, Yunmengzi suddenly sighed and said, "Brother Han, do you remember the battle 800 years ago when our Dao sect joined forces to expel the Buddhism from the Central Plains? At that time, it was also the same scene. Even at that time, the diabolism could only order us around. I did not expect that now, it is our turn to regard the diabolism as a great enemy. 800 years ago, the Jianghu was in chaos. The temples and the Jianghu were in endless war, and it was even more chaotic than now. At present, the two most powerful Buddhist sects were in the north. The Great Light Temple was in the north, which was a bitter and cold land 800 years ago. And the Subodhi Zen monastery was in the southern barbarian land. Until now, it was still a desolate place. At that time, the Central Plains naturally had the Buddhism. However, at that time, the Buddhism was expelled from the Central Plains by the Dao sect. At that time, the diabolism was still in a state of disunity. The Kunlun devil cult did not appear. Everyone fought on their own. It could be said that they were the weakest among all the forces in the world. Han Jusi said in a low voice, "Now the diabolism is indeed strong." The moon-worshipping cult of Western Chu used to be a small sect in the Miao territory. I did not expect it to grow into a giant. There is also the Yinma clan. I heard that they are only the remnants of the Kunlun devil cult. But the remnants are already so powerful. It is hard to imagine how strong the Kunlun devil cult was in the past. In short, we must be careful. The next time we attack, we will strive to completely defeat the other party. Then, we will inform the Eastern Qi imperial court to send troops to attack the northern Yen from the gap we have torn open. We will leave the matter of seizing cities to them. 800 years ago, this was a trick that Han Jusi and the others often used. The Jianghu forces were responsible for defeating the other party's high-end forces. Then, the imperial court's army would come to clean up the mess. This time, they wanted to do the same, but they did not expect that the resistance they encountered would be so tenacious. Although the other party was defeated, they did not collapse. Yunmengzi looked at the small forces and the other martial artists and snorted coldly. My Chunyang Dao sect may be declining in this era, but our disciples are still capable. There are no cowards who are afraid of death. But these guys are too hateful. They only know how to fight when the wind blows. They can't hold on after suffering a setback. They are defeated before the other party is defeated. If it were not for them, we could have completely eliminated the Yinma clan last time. Han Jusi shook his head. Everyone in the world comes for benefits. This group of people came for benefits. How can you expect them to put their lives on the line? But it does not matter. As long as they can make a move, it will be fine. Right, have you sent someone to inform Sword King's city that they have returned? Yunmengzi's expression was slightly gloomy. They have returned, but Sword King's city's attitude is unclear. It seems that Jin Chanfeng has no way to deal with his juniors. They don't even have the right to express their opinions. Han Jusi waved his hand. Forget it, let's not wait for them. We have enough strength here. This time, we must completely defeat the Yinma clan. Chapter 1023. At the border between Shangmang Mountain and Eastern Qi, tens of thousands of martial artists' gang Qis flashed, and a strange phenomenon appeared. Sensing that the righteous martial artists had already made their move, Wei Shuya and the others did not care whether their injuries had healed or not, and immediately rushed forward to meet them. Shang Tianliang's face was a little pale. He snorted coldly and said, "Chu Xiu is too scheming. Guarding against I is like guarding against a thief. If he was at ease and let I bring out all the people in Shang City, they would definitely be a great force to be reckoned with after cultivating in the outside world for a while." This time, Shang Tianliang had also attacked with all his strength, but he was still no match for Ling Yunzi, who was wielding the pure yang divine weapon. Wei Shuya did not say anything. He sighed and said, "City Lord Shang, if we really can't hold them off, you take your men and retreat first. I will cover their retreat." The surrounding people wanted to say something, but Wei Shuya shook his head and said, "There is no need to say anything more. This old man does not have many years left to live, but you are different. As long as the green hills last, there is hope. As long as there are people, the lineage of Mo will never end." Wei Shuya was very open-minded about matters of life and death. In the past, 4 of the 5 sky demons of 9 Sky Mountain had died. His 4 brothers had allowed him to live for only one reason, to leave a seed for 9 Sky Mountain. Now, Wei Shuya had the same idea. Mei Qinglian, Lu Fengxian, and the others were all seeds of the demonic lineage, and Chu Xiu was even more so. As long as they could live, he had nothing to fear even if he had to risk his life. There was great terror between life and death, and he had already seen through this terror 100 years ago. Mei Qinglian and the others wanted to say something, but Wei Shuya pointed to the front. Yunmengzi, Han Jusi, and the others had already led a large group of righteous martial artists to attack them. Both sides were already in a situation where they would not rest until one side was dead. Yunmengzi and the others knew that the demonic lineage would not surrender. Similarly, Wei Shuya and the others also knew that the righteous lineage would not retreat. So there was no need for words, and they would just attack. Ling Yunzi wielded the pure Yang Dao sword and attacked Shang Tianliang. The pure Sun divine armament shone brightly, and there was even a rhythm that affected the surrounding laws of power. That was the mark of Ancestor Lu on the pure Yang divine weapon. Ling Yunzi had obtained the secret art from Yunmengzi, and he could finally unleash the full power of the pure Yang divine weapon. Ling Yunzi shook his head and said, "I can tell that you're not a member of the demonic path. Since that's the case, why do you insist on helping Chu Xiu to the end?" Shang Tianliang snorted. In fact, at the very beginning, he had only served Chu Xiu because he wanted Chu Xiu to bring out all the people from the mall. After witnessing Chu Xiu's strength and power, Shang Tianliang had other thoughts. Shang City's people suddenly appeared in Jianghu. Dao was not Dao, Buddha was not Buddha, and devil was not devil. They definitely had to choose a faction to support. The person he chose was Chu Xiu. He believed that with Chu Xiu's potential, he would go further in the future and even reach a realm that even he couldn't imagine. Now, he was fighting to the death with the righteous path for the sake of the Immortal lineage, not only for Chu Xiu, but also for himself. When Ling Yunzi saw Shang Tianliang's attitude, he didn't try to persuade him anymore. The pure Yang Dao sword bloomed with extreme pure Yang light. In an instant, everyone seemed to see a second sun. At the border of the righteous and demonic battlefields, there were dozens of sword-wielding warriors standing there. They were the people of Sword King City. Sword King City had been invited by Han Jusi and the others to annihilate the demons, but they didn't take action in the end. Strictly speaking, Sword King City wasn't a righteous sect. In fact, the immoral things they had done in the western regions were even worse than those of the demonic path. Therefore, Sword King City didn't seem to care about the demonic path's actions this time. However, this battle between the righteous path and the demonic path would affect the development of the martial arts world in the Central Plains. Even if Sword King City wasn't prepared to take action, they had to come and watch. At that moment, on Sword King City's side, a tall and thin sword-wielding warrior with a mustache snorted. "I've already said it before. Stand on the side of the righteous path and kill the demonic path. This will definitely be of great help to Sword King City's power. I'm very familiar with Yunmengzi and Han Jusi. They are both outstanding figures of the Dao sect 800 years ago. Now that they have joined forces, there's no reason for them to lose. It's such a big matter, and we, Sword King City, are only spectators. It's such a waste." The person who spoke was called Jin Chanfeng. He was one of the warriors from 800 years ago and one of Sword King City's elders. However, compared to Han Jusi and the others who could control part of the sect, Jin Chanfeng was much more unlucky. None of the three from Sword King City were easy to deal with. Heavenly King Shen was domineering and dictatorial. Meng Yanghe was extreme and gloomy. Apart from Heavenly King Shen, he wouldn't listen to anyone. Duguli was a warrior of the older generation and a member of the former royal family. He had a fiery temper. Sometimes, when his temper flared up, he even dared to scold Heavenly King Shen. Given the personalities of these three, it would be wishful thinking for Jin Chanfeng to seize power from them. When the righteous path had invited them to take action, Jin Chanfeng had wanted to agree. However, he had been rejected by Heavenly King Shen and the other two. To Heavenly King Shen and the others, true fire spirit refinement realm cultivators were indeed something they needed. It should be said that all large sects needed them. However, what they needed were obedient true fire spirit refinement realm cultivators who were on their side, not people who stirred up trouble from the sidelines. What did their ancestors from 800 years ago have to do with them? If they were dead, they would respectfully pay their respects. If they were alive, sorry. It was not like 800 years ago anymore. If they followed the rules, they were still a member of Sword King City. If they did not follow the rules, they would be considered traitors. Who knew, they might even want to punish them. At that moment, no one cared about what Jin Chanfeng and the others had said. Du Li turned to Fang Qi Xiao and asked, "Seventh young master, who do you think will win?" Fang Qi Xiao stood stiffly in front of the big shots of the sects, looking rather serious. Although he was an unreliable person, he still knew how to read people's expressions. If he dared to say anything inappropriate now, he would probably die a horrible death when he returned to Sword King City. Upon hearing that, Fang Qi Xiao did not even think about it. He only said in a low voice, "I don't know who will win, but I know that the hidden demons will definitely not lose." Heavenly King Shen was surprised. Why? Just because of Chu Xiu? You think so highly of Chu Xiu? Fang Qi Xiao nodded. It really is because of Chu Xiu. If Chu Xiu dies, I dare say that the hidden demons will definitely lose. But if Chu Xiu is still alive, even if he is the only one left in the entire hidden demons, he will still be able to make a comeback. Jin Chanfeng could not help but snort. 800 years ago, there were countless amazing talents in the pugilistic world, but what happened in the end? Human strength cannot defeat the heavens. There are many heroes in every era of the pugilistic world, but how many of them can survive until the end? What right does Chu Xiu have to do that? Fang Qi Xiao glanced at him and said lightly, "Because Chu Xiu is the first person I dare not say I can surpass." Heavenly King Shen could not help but be surprised when he heard Fang Qi Xiao's words. Although Fang Qi Xiao was usually unruly and even gave Heavenly King Shen headaches, they knew how talented Fang Qi Xiao was. Under that unruly appearance, he was very proud. Before Chu Xiu became famous, Fang Qi Xiao had fought with both Zhong Xian and Zhang Qingzhen, but he had lost. But even if he had lost, Fang Qi Xiao had never been convinced by his opponents. He had never thought that he was weaker than Zhong Xian and Zhang Qingzhen. Life was only a few hundred years. If he could not enjoy himself, then what was the point of living? Swordsmanship was his passion. Drinking and visiting brothels were also his passions. If Fang Qi Xiao could spend all his time cultivating swordsmanship, with his talent, he would definitely become a powerful swordsman like Qiu Tianya and Kang Dongming in the future. But everyone had their own way of living. Fang Qi Xiao did not want to live like Zhang Qingzhen and Zhong Xian. It was not that he did not care about cultivation. It was just that there were too many interesting things in the world. He did not want to let them go. Heavenly King Shen was very clear about Fang Qi Xiao's thoughts. That was why he was surprised to see Fang Qi Xiao praise Chu Xiu so much. Fang Qi Xiao's words proved that, in his opinion, even if he was a swordsman and cultivated crazily every day, he would still not be able to catch up to Chu Xiu. At that moment, Fang Qi Xiao suddenly said, "Of course, this is only in terms of strength. In terms of looks, other than brother Lu Fengxian, I've never been afraid of anyone. Other than the sword in my hand, I also rely on my face to make a living. The last time I went to the Floral Moon House, those girls were shocked by my handsomeness and elegance. They did not even have the nerve to ask for money. I was already one street away, but they were still chasing after me." Heavenly King Shen's face immediately darkened. "Drag him away." Bai Qian, who was following behind Heavenly King Shen, shook his head. He covered Fang Qi Xiao's mouth and dragged him to the back, not letting him express his proud words. It was Jin Chanfeng's first time seeing Fang Qi Xiao like this. He could not help but be stunned. He said to Heavenly King Shen, "Is this the future successor of Sword King City?" Although Heavenly King Shen felt embarrassed, he still snorted coldly and said, "Why? Are you not convinced? When Fang Qi Shao reaches the true fire spirit refinement stage, you can fight him. If you can win, I will give you the position of Sword King City's sect leader." Jin Chanfeng shook his head. He really believed it. The reason was simple. Based on Fang Qi Shao's behavior, if his talent in Sword Dao was really not good, he would probably have been hung up on Sword King City's banner long ago. Meanwhile, on the battlefield between the Orthodox and demon sects, although Fang Qi Shao thought highly of Chu Xiu, the hidden demons were already on the verge of collapsing before Chu Xiu even appeared. In the previous battle, almost everyone from the hidden demons side was injured. This time, the Orthodox sects had made another move. Under the pressure, the hidden demons were already in a precarious situation. Chapter 1024. On the stalemate battlefield, the Immortal clan had begun to collapse. Compared with the righteous sects, the composition of the Immortal clan was simpler and more united. Jianghu Hall guarded the forces left by Chu Xiu. The Immortal clan guarded the bottom line of the demonic path. Xiang Chong and others of the Northern Yen clan couldn't retreat. Therefore, they all had the determination to fight to the death, but unfortunately, in the face of absolute power, a little determination couldn't save the situation. There were too many people on the righteous sect side. If you repelled one, there would be another two immediately. Now Mei Qinglian had this feeling. She was actually not very good at this kind of fierce battlefield. The enchanted girl technique was unknowingly bewitching. In this kind of fierce battlefield, the evil spirits soared into the sky. Everyone's body would unknowingly be contaminated with some evil spirits, which had some impact on their own mental power. It also caused the effect of the enchanted girl technique to be greatly reduced. For real pellet state martial artists attacked her wildly. Two of them were martial artists of the Chunyang Dao sect. His pure yang aura was extremely restraining to Mei Qinglian. The other two real pellet state martial artists of the righteous sects attacked wildly, forcing Mei Qinglian's figure to turn into a demonic mist. She flashed and moved, but she was gradually forced into a dead end by the pure yang aura. Enchantress! Die! Seeing that Mei Qinglian had been forced into a dead end, the two Chunyang Dao sect martial artists shouted at the same time, and the pure yang aura on their long swords skyrocketed. Kill the evil, subdue the demon. At this moment, Mei Qinglian's mind couldn't help but reverberate with the Red Lotus Demon Venerable's experience on the Red Lotus Hellfire that Lu Jianghe had given her. The Red Lotus Hellfire could refine one's mind and soul. One must first bear the roasting of the hellfire in order to truly refine the Red Lotus Hellfire to burn others. At this moment, Mei Qinglian's mind was completely relaxed, and her mental power also drifted away. However, it wasn't attacking the opponent in front of her, but immersed in her own mind. In an instant, illusions appeared in front of her eyes. Some were good, some were bad, some were good, some were what she wanted in her life, and some were things that she couldn't ask for in her life. She was the holy maiden of the Yin demon sect, but in reality, many people had called her a demoness. In the past, when the Yin demon ancestor was still around, she could be carefree and use her talent to tease the young elites of the righteous path. Her temperament was weird, and compared to her current enchanting appearance, it was like they were two different people. That was the happiest time of Mei Qinglian's life, until the destruction of the dark demon sect. She was the sole survivor of the Yin demon sect. What she carried on her was the inheritance of the Yin demon sect, the future of the Yin demon sect. However, no one knew that she wasn't good at these things at all. However, for the sake of her responsibilities, for the sake of her seniors who had died in the past, even if she wasn't good at it, she had to carry it on her shoulders. That was why the weird holy maiden of the Yin demon sect became the enchanting Madame Mei, hiding in the Guanzhong torture room. You could say that she was bearing the burden, or struggling at death's door. At that time, Mei Qinglian didn't have a goal, until she met Chu Xiu. She didn't know when it started, but she didn't have to think about so many things. She only needed to listen to Chu Xiu's orders. This kind of life was actually very relaxing. It seems like I've always been a stupid woman. Mei Qinglian sighed helplessly. Who said that the holy maiden of the demonic path had to be sinister, ruthless, and full of schemes? She had endured for so many years, and perhaps today was the day she saw herself clearly. The karmic fire of the Red Lotus refined the heart and soul. If she couldn't see herself clearly, how could she use the karmic fire of the Red Lotus? Just like Li Jiaodi, she was stubborn all her life, but she got the Red Lotus hellfire in the end. This wasn't like an opportunity, but more like irony. The next moment, the dazzling red hellfire on Mei Qinglian's arms bloomed. It burned all the way to the 2 disciples of the Chunyang Dao sect along the pure Yanggang Qi. The 2 of them screamed in an instant, and a large amount of hellfire bloomed from their 7 orifices. In less than a second, the 2 of them had fallen to the ground, and they were completely lifeless. Hellfire tempering heart. Obviously, they didn't survive this. When the other 2 real pellet state martial artists saw this scene, they turned around and fled directly. But the next moment, Mei Qinglian waved her hand, and a red lotus bloomed between their eyebrows. The boundless red lotus hellfire surrounded them and instantly swallowed them. The red lotus hellfire was colorless and formless. As long as you had negative karma in your heart, no matter where you hid, the red lotus hellfire would bloom and burn in your heart. Lu Jianghe, who was being besieged by Zhao Yuanfeng of Jiangshan Pavilion, took a look below and saw that Mei Qinglian had really comprehended the red lotus hellfire. He was really shocked. In the past, the 4 demon venerables of the Kunlun devil cult were strong because they were almost the best among the same realm, whether it was the true fire-tempering state or the heaven and earth mysterious state. Back then, Red Lotus Demon Venerable relied on the Red Lotus Hellfire to dominate the martial world. It was unpredictable and impossible to guard against. Previously, Lu Jianghe just saw that Mei Qinglian's state of mind was somewhat similar to Red Lotus Demon Venerables, so he gave her the Red Lotus Demon Venerables insight with a trial attitude. He didn't expect her to really cultivate it. Of course, Mei Qinglian could only be considered to have cultivated half of it, because what Lu Jianghe gave her was only insight, not the Red Lotus Demon Venerable's inheritance technique. In the past, Red Lotus Demon Venerables still had countless secret techniques and killer moves that had to be used with the Red Lotus Hellfire. Now, it definitely couldn't be used. At this time, Lu Jianghe subconsciously turned his gaze again, but when he saw the situation on Lu Fengxian's side, he widened his eyes in horror. If Mei Qinglian's breakthrough was still considered common sense, then Lu Fengxian was purely a monster. She simply didn't play by the rules. At this time, Lu Fengxian's performance on the battlefield was also very dazzling. The demon god Unparalleled halberd that he inherited from LV Wenho was originally a martial art that could exert its greatest effect on the battlefield. The Unparalleled halberd danced and swept across the area. When it smashed down, the ground would shake. Its power was unparalleled. Shui Wuxiang and the other 3 guarded around Lu Fengxian to prevent anyone from sneak attacking Lu Fengxian. The 4 of them had also recovered to the real pellet state at this time. At this time, they were fighting with Lu Fengxian. They actually had the feeling of following LV Wenho to conquer the world. When the 5 of them joined forces, they even beat more than a dozen real pellet state martial artists to retreat step by step. They didn't dare to fight head-on at all. With Lu Fengxian's powerful halberd, they would either die or be crippled if they were hit by it. Previously in the underworld, Lu Fengxian had some fame, but it could only be said to be a little famous. Not to mention compared with Chu Xiu, among the martial artists of his generation, even Zhang Qingzhen, Zhong Xian, and Fang Qishao were more famous than him. Moreover, Lu Fengxian had always been relatively low-key. As a result, when they went to the battlefield this time, they knew the horror of Lu Fengxian. Especially this time, after Lu Fengxian read the physical cultivation experience of Jianghu Demon Venerable, he had a deeper understanding. His power on the battlefield was simply immeasurable. However, his high-profile actions had also attracted the attention of others. Mako Mori broke away from the battle with Wei Shuya and let others continue to block Wei Shuya. He stepped forward and came in front of Lu Fengxian. He grabbed with one hand, and a dazzling pure yang aura burst out. He directly grabbed Lu Fengxian's unparalleled halberd in his hand. Feeling the unparalleled power, Mako Mori's complexion changed slightly. He really didn't expect that a real pellet state martial artist would have this kind of power. But with a difference of one realm, Mako Mori was still one of the few older martial artists who could still maintain their combat power after cultivating for more than 300 years. In terms of strength, he was much more powerful than Lu Fengxian. With a wave of one hand, a powerful pure yang aura burst out, directly blasting Lu Fengxian away. Looking at Lu Fengxian, who retreated for hundreds of meters, Mako Mori stood with his hands behind his back, and he said slowly, "Lu Fengxian, I have heard of your name. Although you always hang out with Chu Xiu, you only inherited the ancient demon god Lu Wenho's technique, but you are not an orthodox demonic cultivator. Your friends in the past are all saying that you are loyal and willing to do anything for your friends. For so many years, you have never done a bad thing, and I believe that you are not a bad person. However, why do you choose to help the wicked? Chunyang Dao sect abhors evil, but they don't want to kill innocent people. Lu Fengxian, you should retreat. Don't continue to embark on the wrong path. The monks have a saying that is very reasonable, repent and you will be saved." Lu Fengxian shook her head and said, "Taoist priest is wrong. I have never felt that I am very loyal, and I have never felt that I am a good person. When I stepped into the martial world, I once asked my master what is chivalrous and whether I want to be a chivalrous person or not. Master only told me one sentence, do what you think is right. If you think it is wrong, do it. Chivalrous for the sake of chivalrous, that is not really chivalrous. It is not easy for a person to live up to his own heart in this life. I, Lu Fengxian, came from a humble background. I have no interest in governing the world, nor do I have the ability to make everything peaceful. As long as I live up to my own heart, my life is not in vain. Whether Brother Chu is a righteous or a demonic cultivator has nothing to do with me. I only know that he is my brother and good friend. When I was in danger, he saved me and helped me. If someone treats me well, I will repay him tenfold. I don't know if the path I am walking on is right or wrong, but today, I don't want to turn back. Even if I turn back, there is no shore." As Lu Fengxian's voice fell, the unparalleled divine weapon in his hand bloomed with a dazzling light. The unparalleled demonic god halberd was used to the extreme by him. Every strike of the halberd seemed to have the power to shatter mountains and break rivers. The demonic aura surged and roared, even causing the wind and clouds in the air to howl angrily. That power was infinitely close to the true fire spirit refinement state. Mako Mori did not want to kill a good person by mistake, but Lu Fengxian refused to come to his senses, so he had no choice. He held the Dao sword in his hand and lightly tapped it. Compared to the mighty demon god unparalleled halberd, the minute amount of pure yang astral chi was only a tiny bit weaker, but the power that exploded out was enough to send Lu Fengxian flying again and again. But at this moment, Mako Mori was shocked to find that every time Lu Fengxian was sent flying, the whistling demonic aura in the air became denser. In the end, the demonic aura actually formed a huge tornado and surged into Lu Fengxian's body. Why did this scene seem so similar to the scene of breaking through to the true fire spirit refinement state? Chapter 1025. There had been breakthroughs in battle before, but most of them happened below the real pellet state. There were only a handful of people who broke through in battle above the real pellet state. Whether it was condensing martial Dao true pellet or tempering true fire spirit refinement, these realms were extremely dangerous. Once something went wrong, it was easy to fail, leading to the abolishment of cultivation. Therefore, 99% of the martial artists would find a safe place to break through again as long as they had the conditions. Not to mention that the state was unstable during the battle, there was also the enemy nearby. How could they let you break through safely? But now Lu Fengxian's state was indeed very similar to the scene caused by the true fire spirit refinement state, tempering the essence soul with the internal fire and then attracting the power of heaven and earth. However, whether Lu Fengxian was going to break through or not, Mako Mori couldn't ignore it. Shou Zhenzi's figure flashed and he rushed towards LV Fengxian. Shui Wuxiang and the others wanted to block him, but they were all sent flying by Shou Zhenzi. But at this moment, in the huge demonic chi vortex above Lu Fengxian's head, a hazy phantasm appeared faintly. The phantasm was wearing black armor, and his face couldn't be seen clearly. Only the scarlet eyes could be seen faintly. The unparalleled relic was held in the hands of the phantasm. As it roared, the wind and clouds gathered, and the sky changed color. Demon God. LV Wenho. This was the last trace of imprint left by LV Wenho in Lu Fengxian's body. As he stepped into the true fire spirit refinement state this time, it was completely integrated with him. Other people tempered their own essence soul in the true fire spirit refinement state, but Lu Fengxian also tempered the essence soul imprint left by LV Wenho when he stepped into the true fire spirit refinement state. The demon god phantasm smashed down with his halberd, and the monstrous demonic chi seemed to be tearing the ground apart. The power was simply immeasurable. Mako Mori's complexion changed suddenly. He turned from offense to defense. His hands successively engraved countless pure yang Dao patterns in the air with pure yang qi, condensing into a barrier in front of him. But in the next moment, the halberd smashed down. The pure yang Dao pattern didn't even last for a breath of time before it shattered. Mako Mori's entire body was sent flying by the halberd, smashing into the ground thousands of feet away, creating a huge crater. Mako Mori struggled to get up. His face was pale as he coughed. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. That halberd strike just now was not Lu Fengxian's power, but an ultimate strike left behind by the demon god LV Wenho. Even if it was just a mark, it was not something that Mako Mori could easily resist. At this time, the demon god's shadow had already begun to distort in the boundless demon chi vortex. Finally, it all entered Lu Fengxian's body. In the blink of an eye, the aura around Lu Fengxian's body began to rise, and in the end, it skyrocketed to the level of the true fire spirit refinement realm before stopping. Lu Fengxian had attracted the attention of more than half of the people on the battlefield. Stepping into the true fire spirit refinement realm in the face of battle was something that could be called a miracle, but they actually saw it. Carrying halberd, Lu Fengxian was still a little confused at this moment. In fact, he did not have any plans to step into the true fire spirit refinement realm. It should be said that no matter what realm he broke through before, it was all up to fate. He cultivated when he needed to cultivate, and rested when he needed to rest. Therefore, almost every time he broke through a realm, it was as if success came naturally. This time, perhaps because Mako Mori had given him too much pressure, this also led to Lu Fengxian actually stepping into the true fire spirit refinement realm in this state. Of course, this was also a good thing. Although the Hidden Devil clan had one more true fire spirit refinement realm warrior, it could still reduce some of the pressure. Therefore, Lu Fengxian did not care that he had not adapted to his current strength. He directly took halberd and attacked Mako Mori again. On the battlefield, although Mei Qinglian and Lu Fengxian had made successive breakthroughs, it was very difficult to reverse the situation of this kind of battle without the help of the heaven and earth mysterious realm powerhouses. Therefore, the situation did not change much. The Hidden Devil clan was still at a disadvantage. Shang Tianliang was almost unable to hold on under Ling Yunzi's pure yang sword. Wei Shuya was besieged by 3 true fire spirit refinement realm warriors and could not hold on any longer. After all, Wei Shuya was not young anymore. Although his combat strength was amazing, the longer this went on, the more he was at a disadvantage. Among the people besieging Wuxia was Yunmengzi of the Chunyang Dao sect. As the former head of the 6 spiritual masters of the Chunyang Dao sect, Yunmengzi, who was at his peak, might not lose even if he fought Wuxia one-on-one. However, he chose to besiege Wuxia so that he would not waste too much of his strength. During the chaotic battles of the pugilistic world 800 years ago, there were many more situations in which people besieged each other than one-on-one. Yunmengzi had adapted to this fighting style. Seeing that Wuxia was almost unable to hold on any longer, Yunmengzi's eyes flashed with killing intent. On the long sword in his hand, a thin golden light appeared. With the point of his sword, the pure yang sword qi strangely condensed into an imperceptible sword thread and pierced towards Wuxia. Wuxia's expression changed when he sensed this power. He wanted to stop it, but he was held back by the other 2 people. He was a step too slow. The sword thread was unusually sharp, so it directly pierced through Wuxia's vital energy shield and penetrated his body. In an instant, with the sword thread as a guide, an endless amount of pure yang qi penetrated Wuxia's body. With a loud bang, he was sent flying, spitting out blood. Wuxia looked at Yunmengzi in astonishment. Although his martial arts were the same as the current Chunyang Daoist sect, his fighting style was different. In fact, there was even a hint of malice in it. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Wuxia looked around. Even Shang Tianliang, who was the strongest on their side, was showing signs of being unable to hold on. With a sigh, Wuxia shouted, "Retreat." Yunmengzi snorted coldly and said, "It's too late to retreat now." As he said this, an endless amount of pure yang energy condensed on his long sword. As the sword slashed down, a long and narrow sword light spread out for hundreds of feet. It danced in the air like a waterfall, drawing on the power of heaven and earth. It formed a dazzling golden storm, which directly smashed down on Wuxia. When it was time to kill, Yunmengzi did not hesitate at all. He did not attack, but once he attacked, he would definitely kill. As a Taoist priest of the Chunyang Dao sect, when he attacked, he was as ruthless as an assassin. Wuxia had previously said that he would stay behind to protect the Immortal clan one last time, just like how his 4 brothers had protected him on the 9th Heaven Mountain back then. Today, he was old. He could die, but the future of the Immortal clan could not be destroyed. Wuxia's expression was calm. He shouted to retreat, but his body moved to meet Yunmengzi's mighty sword. He formed a complicated seal, and a surging devil qi condensed behind him. This was a seal that his brother had passed on to him in the past. It did not have a name. Because after using this seal technique and risking his life, his big brother directly died, and he didn't even have a name. The devil qi triggered by this nameless seal was so powerful that half of the sky had been dyed black. Just as Wuxia's seal was about to be completed, an ear-piercing whistling sound was heard. The black arrow seemed to pass through space, and with a destructive fire, it drew a long trajectory and directly bombarded Yunmengzi's arrow. With a loud bang, the pure yang energy and the power of nirvanic extermination cancelled each other out and exploded, bursting out waves of terrifying waves. At this moment, everyone present turned to look behind them. The moment they saw this arrow, they knew that Chu Xiu had finally returned. For the entire Immortal clan, or more accurately, all the forces under Chu Xiu, only he, Chu Xiu, was the only core. Wuxia had prestige, and Shang Tianliang had strength, but neither of them could replace Chu Xiu. Before Chu Xiu had appeared, everyone was already on the verge of collapse. However, the moment Chu Xiu returned, the collapse was completely reversed. Everyone seemed to have gained a lot of strength for nothing. On the other hand, when the people from the righteous sects looked at Chu Xiu, they could not help but reveal a hint of panic and even fear. Chu Xiu's reputation wasn't given to him by others. It was earned with the blood and lives of countless people. It could even be said that the deterrence that Chu Xiu brought to them was even greater than that of Shang Tianliang, a mysterious heaven and earth realm expert. At this moment, even the people of Sword King's city who were watching from the side were stunned. They had never expected that Chu Xiu's appearance would cause such a great impact. Glancing at the battlefield, although everyone was in a sorry state, there were not many casualties. LV Fengxian had even broken through to the true fire spirit refinement realm, and Mei Qinglian's aura had also soared. Chu Xiu smiled and said, "I'm sorry, everyone. I've been overseas for a long time. However, judging from your expressions, I'm not too late." Lu Jiang, he snapped, "You're not too late. If you were any later, you would only be able to collect our corpses." Chu Xiu looked at the people of the Chunyang Dao sect and the other righteous path sects and narrowed his eyes. "Don't worry. Even if I have to collect your corpses, I will send them down to be buried with you." Ling Yunzi and the others present had dealt with Chu Xiu before, so they knew that Chu Xiu's words were not harsh. He was definitely capable of doing such a thing. This was the first time Yunmengzi and Han Jusi had seen Chu Xiu. They had seen the famous Chu Xiu of their righteous path sects, and they hated him to the core. It could be said that Chu Xiu was even more extraordinary than what Yunmengzi and the others had imagined. Based on his aura alone, they could no longer regard Chu Xiu as a martial artist of the younger generation. Instead, he was an overlord of the devil path who could compete with them in Jianghu. Yunmengzi shook his head and said, "Before you appeared, we were worried that you would not be able to find a mysterious heaven and earth realm expert to change the situation. But now it seems that you have no reinforcements, and there is no breakthrough. Chu Xiu, this is the general trend. You can't stop it alone." Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, "The general trend? I've never believed in the general trend. Besides, how do you know whose side the general trend is on?" Chapter 1026. Yunmengzi wasn't afraid that Chu Xiu's appearance had turned the tables on both sides. Momentum was momentum, strength was strength, and the saying that soldiers with righteous indignation were bound to win was just an exception. However, what really made Yunmengzi uncertain was that Chu Xiu seemed to be very relaxed, as if he had already solved the problem in front of him. Where did he get his confidence from? At this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly turned his gaze to Zhao Yuanfeng. An inexplicable smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Pavilion leader Zhao, to be precise, should I call you Prince Zhao now? Your Jiangshan pavilion has been doing well overseas. Why do you have to intervene in the conflict of the Central Plains warriors? It's one thing for you to intervene, but you went back on your word and chose to cooperate with Eastern Qi. That's a bit too much." Zhao Yuanfeng said calmly, "The Northern Yen pulled Jiangshan Pavilion to the Central Plains just to make use of us. Since we're all using each other, why don't I find a powerful backer to be used? That would make me more valuable, wouldn't it? People in the pugilistic world have no control over themselves. Official Chu, Jiangshan Pavilion didn't mean to be your enemy, but now we have no choice." Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "That's fine. Since you didn't mean it, I'll forgive you. Take the people from the River Mountain Pavilion and leave, and I won't pursue this matter." Hearing this, Zhao Yuanfeng and the others were stunned. Chu Xiu didn't play by the rules. He had only said a few words. Why did Chu Xiu take it seriously? The elder from the Zhao family of Jiangshan Pavilion snorted. "All right, why are you wasting time talking to him? Let's get this over with." Previously, when Jiangshan Pavilion had just entered Yanjing City, he had a conflict with Chu Xiu. This Zhao family elder still retained some of the royal family's behavior in the past and viewed that incident as a disgrace. Therefore, when Jiangshan Pavilion switched to Eastern Qi, this elder of the Zhao family had put in a lot of effort. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "It seems that Jiangshan Pavilion is still unrepentant. Forget it, people always have to be responsible for the decisions they make. Pavilion Master Zhao, I'll give you a present today." As soon as Chu Xiu finished speaking, he threw something at Zhao Yuanfeng, which rolled to his feet. It was a human head. When he saw the head, Zhao Yuanfeng's expression suddenly changed. He cried out involuntarily, "Godfather!" The head that Chu Xiu threw to him was Huixingzuan's head. Once Huixingzuan was dead, his body was naturally useless. Therefore, before he left, Chu Xiu remembered that Jiangshan Pavilion had also attacked Eastern Qi, so he asked Pak Donglai for Huixingzuan's head as a surprise for Zhao Yuanfeng. Now, it seemed that this surprise was enough. At least, Zhao Yuanfeng's current appearance was indeed very shocking. As for whether he was happy or not, only he himself knew. You killed Godfather. How could you possibly kill Godfather? The moment he saw Huixingzuan's head, Zhao Yuanfeng completely lost his composure. Actually, when Huixingzuan died, Zhao Yuanfeng wasn't that sad. It had to be said that Huixingzuan was a failure as a godfather. He bound his godsons with benefits, and there was no familial love between them. For example, back on Paragon Island, Fu Longshao had thought of abandoning Huixingzuan and escaping on his own. Now that he saw Huixingzuan's corpse, Zhao Yuanfeng was more shocked than sad. Although he didn't have any feelings for Huixingzuan, he knew how powerful Huixingzuan's influence in the Breeze Sea was. He was a supreme figure who lived up to his name. But now, his head was brought to him by Chu Xiu. What did this prove? It proved that there was a huge change in the Breeze Sea. The Hua family on Paragon Island had been completely overthrown. As Huixingzuan's godson, his foundation in the Breeze Sea was gone. He couldn't return to Jiangshan Pavilion anymore. Moreover, as the pavilion master of Jiangshan Pavilion, and Huixingzuan thought highly of him, Zhao Yuanfeng was very capable. He thought for a while, and his body instantly turned cold. Chu Xiu was the core figure of the Yinma clan. But after the Eastern Qi imperial court and the righteous martial arts world attacked the northern Yan for such a long time, he didn't show up except to solve the predicament of the Guanzhong torture room. This was very suspicious. Now that Chu Xiu came here with Huixingzuan's head, it was obvious where he had been during this period. Thinking of the location of the Breeze Sea and the fact that Eastern Qi had put all the powerful armies on the 9 borders, Zhao Yuanfeng had vaguely figured out Chu Xiu's plan. This time, Jiangshan Pavilion might really be on the wrong side. The others didn't know how much Zhao Yuanfeng was thinking. They actually didn't know much about Zhao Yuanfeng's background. Seeing that Chu Xiu threw out a head and Zhao Yuanfeng called him his adoptive father, they thought that Chu Xiu just killed an old man of Jiangshan Pavilion, who was Zhao Yuanfeng's adoptive father, to vent his anger. They didn't know what Zhao Yuanfeng's adoptive father represented. Seeing that Zhao Yuanfeng's state was not right, and even the momentum of the whole battle had changed since Chu Xiu showed up, Yun Mengzi and Han Jusi looked at each other and shouted together, "Kill! Don't stop!" The first spurt of energy, the second spurt of energy, the third spurt of energy. Originally, the righteous martial arts world wasn't united, and there were more people who wanted to fish in troubled waters. At this time, if they let Chu Xiu continue to talk like this, there might be some changes. Cut the Gordian knot, and kill the enemy in one spurt of energy, no conspiracy or trick would work. Chu Xiu looked at Shang Tianliang and said, "City Lord Shang, can you still hold on?" The meridians in Shang Tianliang's body had been penetrated by pure yang sword qi, and now he seemed a little weak. "We won't be able to hold on for long. If you don't bring reinforcements, I won't be able to hold on any longer." Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, "Don't worry, it won't be long before news comes." Just after Chu Xiu left the East Sea, Pak Donglai and the others had gathered the elites of the East Sea at the fastest speed, and began to attack the coastal border of Eastern Qi. At present, except for the elite guards in Great Liang City of Eastern Qi, the other 9 border-strong armies had been pulled to the northern Yan border by Eastern Qi. The martial arts forces in the East Sea did not even have the slightest understanding of battle formations. They only needed to attack chaotically for a while, and the ordinary troops left by Eastern Qi would not be able to hold on. Therefore, Eastern Qi would have to retreat as soon as possible. Of course, at the moment, it was still up to Chu Xiu and the others to carry on. Looking at Yun Mengzi and Han Jusi, a dangerous glint flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. He already knew that this war between the righteous and demonic factions was caused by these two. After being locked in the primitive demon's lair for 800 years, they still did not learn their lesson. As soon as they came out, they wanted to cause trouble. Damn it! The evil moon saber was already in Chu Xiu's hand, and the inner demon was suppressing the weapon spirit of the evil moon saber. In an instant, the blood moon bloomed, and the saber light distorted the surrounding space. With a slash, Chu Xiu went straight for Yunmengzi. At this moment, Yunmengzi had a feeling that he was being stared at by some terrifying beast. In the next moment, Yunmengzi's body shone with pure yang astral energy, and the sword light traversed the sky. The surrounding heaven and earth yuan qi was like a raging storm, gathering around his sword. The blood moon on the evil moon saber distorted space, and no matter what kind of power it was, it would be distorted by the blood moon. Chu Xiu's saber slashed down with extreme strength, and it also contained the saber intent of the broken sea of the seven limits. It was as if it could shatter mountains and break rivers, and everything was collapsing. When the sword and blade collided, an intense shockwave instantly erupted forth. Yunmengzi instantly felt an unbearable force rushing towards him. A crack appeared on his divine weapon, and his entire person was sent flying by Chu Xiu's slash. Fresh blood splattered from his body as he flew through the air. At this moment, everyone was stunned. As for Yunmengzi, he was an expert from 800 years ago, so most people were unfamiliar with him. However, they were not unfamiliar with the position of the head of the Six Temple Protector spiritual masters. Throughout history, those who could sit in this position in Chunyang Dao sect were not weak. Mako Mori looked at Chu Xiu in horror. How long had it been? Compared to when he was in the Guanzhong torture room, Chu Xiu's strength had improved. His strength was a bit stronger than when he was in the Guanzhong torture room. Perhaps the most terrifying thing about Chu Xiu was not his strength, but the speed of his improvement. When you were still looking at him with the old eyes, and when you were still using your old strength to plot against him, he could come up with unexpected strength and smash everything you had planned. Seeing that Chu Xiu's saber slashed Yunmengzi until he vomited blood, Han Juxi's expression changed, and he shouted in a low voice, "Let's attack together. He's not at the heaven and earth mystic realm, so what are you afraid of?" Unless he was at the heaven and earth mystic realm and had the strength to effect the battle, he would die of exhaustion. Just like when Xiang Chong held the 9-dragon seal and unleashed the power of the dragon vein, it was infinitely close to the heaven and earth mystic realm, but in the end, he was the first to collapse. As Han Juxi's voice fell, he and Lu Chonglu attacked Chu Xiu together. At the same time, Zhao Yuanfeng and the elder from the Zhao clan also rushed over. Together with Yunmengzi, who had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood, they got up again. A total of 5 people at the True Fire Spirit Refinement realm surrounded Chu Xiu. Being attacked by so many True Fire Spirit Refinement realm powerhouses at the same time, even Xiang Chong, who had previously unleashed the power of the 9-dragon seal, did not receive such treatment. There was a hint of coldness in Chu Xiu's eyes, but he did not retreat. At the moment, almost all of Elder Wei and the others were injured. If he did not appear, they might really not be able to resist. Therefore, at the moment, the more firepower he could attract, the better. It would be best to let the battle fall into his own rhythm. In fact, the entire battle had unknowingly fallen into Chu Xiu's rhythm. As soon as he appeared, he gained the upper hand, so Yunmengzi and Han Juxi paid great attention to him, and they focused all their strength on him. In fact, if Han Juxi and the others spread out and desperately tried to kill Wei Shuya and the others, Chu Xiu could only rescue them first. Chapter 1027. In terms of attracting hatred, Chu Xiu was considered to be quite talented. Just like now, as long as he stood out, he would immediately become the target of everyone's attacks. Of course, this was exactly what Chu Xiu needed. The 5 people attacked together, but Chu Xiu ignored them and charged toward Yunmengzi first. Seeing Chu Xiu's action, Yunmengzi was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood again. Just now, Chu Xiu was aiming at him. Now, with so many people attacking together, he was obviously the last one. Why did they target him? Yunmengzi had already experienced Chu Xiu's power, and he didn't want to experience it again. Holding his sword in front of him, Yunmengzi pinched a Daoist seal with his hand. In an instant, the Daoist runes bloomed in front of him. Lu Chonglu of the real martial arts sect waved the horsetail whisk in his hand. Extremely pure qi of heaven and earth was gathered in the horsetail whisk by him and wrapped around Chu Xiu. His horsetail whisk was left by Ning Xuanji in the past. The Daoist connotation was self-generated, and the qi of heaven and earth that was drawn over was extremely pure. It was as if the world itself was restraining Chu Xiu. At the same time, Han Jusi's figure followed closely behind. One by one, the Daoist patterns were quickly drawn in his hand and hovered around his body. Han Jusi's hand seemed to be holding the sun and the moon. Two forces, clear and muddy, condensed in front of him. Heaven and earth furnace, yin and yang creation. The two forces reached an extremely delicate balance in his arms. As the power of the Daoist patterns flourished, Han Jusi smashed toward Chu Xiu's seal. The huge furnace that was condensed by the qi of heaven and earth and yin and yang also went straight toward Chu Xiu. The power contained in it was simply shocking. Lu Chonglu and Han Jusi were both from the real martial arts sect. At this time, they cooperated with each other very well. Lu Chonglu was a gentle person. He was a well-known kind person in the martial world. Even his martial arts attack power was not too strong. On the contrary, it was miraculous for him to assist from the side. In Han Jusi's era, even the Dao sects were very aggressive. Therefore, Han Jusi was more radical. However, at this time, when the two of them joined forces, their martial arts complemented each other. The power was also shocking. Immediately after, Zhao Yuanfeng's finger landed. The force of his finger penetrated the void. It was invisible and intangible, but it caused the surrounding air to emit a violent sonic boom. Wave-breaking finger could split water and break waves. If this was used in the sea, it would be enough to shake the waves for a few miles. The elder from the Zhao clan also slammed his palm down. The palm force transformed into a boundless giant wave, and its power was incomparably vast. It was also Chu Xiu's first time fighting with so many true fire spirit refinement realm martial artists of the same level. Zhao of Xiu of one, he of was more powerful than of was. The reason was very simple. When facing a person alone, even if you wanted to fight to the end, you would only need to focus on that person. However, in the face of being surrounded by so many people, it was inevitable that one's energy would be scattered, especially when the people surrounding you were not weak. If you were careless in any aspect, it could lead to your defeat. However, Chu Xiu's method of breaking out of this situation was very simple. Since there were so many of them, he would kill as many as he could until there were fewer of them. Chu Xiu's body was burning with internal true fire. At the same time, it was mixed with the black world extinguishing fire. A powerful force suddenly broke out. After the world-extinguishing fire broke free from Lu Chongliu's restraint, it followed the trajectory of Lu Chongliu's true qi. It moved toward his horsetail whisk and even his body. The power of the world-extinguishing fire was evil. At least, Lu Chonglu did not want to be touched by it. Therefore, he began to retreat. His Taoist connotation burst out to resist the world-extinguishing fire. The evil moon saber was held in Chu Xiu's hand. As the saber fell, the twisted blood moon turned into a sharp blood line in an instant, tearing and cutting everything. The saber essence of the break formula slashed out. Everything in front of him was almost cut in half. Space was cut and time was torn. The huge furnace formed by the yin and yang power of heaven and earth was extremely violent and unstable. As long as the Taoist pattern on it melted, it would immediately explode. However, under the attack of Chu Xiu's break formula, the furnace was neatly cut in half. Heaven returned to heaven, earth returned to earth, yin returned to yin, and yang returned to yang. It was as if that power had never existed. In the blink of an eye, it had already dissipated between heaven and earth. However, Chu Xiu's break formula didn't stop. It continued to slash at Han Jusi. A Daoist sword with talismans carved on it was held in Han Jusi's hand. In an instant, 81 talismans were pointed out by the long sword. His speed was even faster than the sword cultivators of the 5 major sword sects. However, it was still useless. Under the saber essence of Chu Xiu's break formula, the power of the saber was simply invincible. 81 talismans were laid out in an instant. However, they were instantly destroyed by Chu Xiu. At this moment, the scorching pure yang sword light fell. Yunmengzi, who had been abandoned by Chu Xiu as a target, made a timely move and blocked in front of Han Jusi. There was a loud explosion. Yunmengzi had finally helped Han Jusi block Chu Xiu's saber. However, his divine weapon Daoist sword, which had already been chipped, was completely cut in half by Chu Xiu's break formula. Han Jusi looked at Yunmengzi with lingering fear and said in a low voice, "Thank you." Yunmengzi's expression was somewhat complicated. He looked at Chu Xiu and said with an indescribable complex expression, "We miscalculated." Han Jusi's expression also changed. "Yes, we miscalculated." Their target this time was Chu Xiu, but their miscalculation was also on Chu Xiu. They had never imagined that Chu Xiu's strength would actually be so powerful. It was simply powerful to the point of being unreasonable. Yunmengzi gritted his teeth and said, "Delay. Even if we can't win, we must delay. As long as we block the Yinma clan and the Northern Yan martial world, the Northern Yan imperial court will not be able to hold on for long. When the Northern Yan imperial court is completely defeated, it will also be the day that Chu Xiu's foundation is destroyed. At that time, even if they don't lose here, their foundation in Northern Yan will be burned to the ground and their vitality will be greatly damaged." Han Jusi also nodded calmly, but he did not know that they had miscalculated more than this. At this moment, Chu Xiu had just used the break formula to cut Yunmengzi's weapon in half, and Zhao Yuanfeng's powerful wave breaker finger had already arrived in front of him. Without dodging, Chu Xiu's Mahakala devil god Dharma form suddenly appeared behind him. In his third eye, the scorching hot destructive fire suddenly burst out, meeting the wave breaker finger's wave breaker finger. When the two collided, the scattered world extinguishing flames landed on the ground, instantly burning a huge pit. At this moment, Chu Xiu's figure shot out like a cannonball. His body was burning with internal true fire, and he punched out directly at the Zhao family elder. No one present had expected that Chu Xiu would suddenly change his target. The power of the punch was even more shocking. Chu Xiu's figure had already arrived in front of the Zhao family elder, and suddenly a sonic boom was heard. It was earth-shattering, and the domineering fist intent seemed to be tearing the sky and earth apart. Not long ago, Chu Xiu had used such a punch to kill Bailey Paubing, the East Sea's #1 warrior. This Zhao family elder was not young, and he looked like he was about to die. He could not be compared to Bailey Paubing at all. The palm strength that was considered powerful in the eyes of others was extremely fragile in the eyes of Chu Xiu. Feeling the power of Chu Xiu's punch, the Zhao family elder was extremely shocked. While withdrawing his power, the Zhao family elder shouted in horror, "Save me!" Although Zhao Yuanfeng could not stand the Zhao family elder using his seniority to suppress him, he was, after all, a true fire refinement state expert of Jiangshan Pavilion. He was a part of Jiangshan Pavilion's power, and he could not just watch him die here. The others present were the same, and they all rushed toward Chu Xiu. It was true that they did not have any friendship with the Zhao family elder. But now they had a common enemy, and that was Chu Xiu. They were all true fire refinement state warriors, and no one was so short-sighted. At this time, they were still playing the game of fighting on their own, allowing Chu Xiu to defeat them one by one. However, just as they were about to make a move, the Mahakala devil god Dharma idol that had intercepted Zhao Yuanfeng before suddenly exploded, and a large amount of world-destroying fire instantly enveloped all of them. Condensing the Dharma idol consumed a lot of spiritual qi. Suddenly destroying the Dharma idol consumed so much that even Chu Xiu's face turned pale. However, all of this was no longer important. With Chu Xiu's current physical strength, his punch had completely shattered the Zhao family's elder's palm force and protective aura with just pure strength alone, completely turning his arm into a bloody mist. The Zhao family elder howled miserably, and a stream of light appeared around him. In the midst of the explosion, water vapor filled the air, but it forcibly reduced the power of Chu Xiu's punch by half. After all, the Zhao family elder was in existence in the true fire refinement state. Although the Zhao family elder was not very strong, he still had some trump cards. Otherwise, Chu Xiu's punch could have easily killed him. But before he could react, Chu Xiu had already arrived in front of him, grabbed him by the neck, and said coldly, "Is overseas not enough for you Jiangshan pavilion to play with? You want to come to the Central Plains to stir up trouble? The Qing dynasty has fallen, and you still want to restore the country and pretend to be a royal family? You're just a group of poor people who don't know what you're talking about." The Zhao clan's elder had yet to react to what the great Qing dynasty was. Their Zhao clan's previous name was not Qing either. At the next moment, Chu Xiu's fist had already appeared before his eyes. With a loud explosion, Chu Xiu's fist smashed the Zhao clan's elder's head into pieces. He then casually threw the headless corpse to one side. The whole battlefield suddenly fell into a strange silence. The righteous path and the devil path had been fighting for so long that even Shang Tianliang, who was in the mysterious realm of heaven and earth, had been injured. But it was the first time that an existence in the true fire refinement state had fallen, and he had died so miserably. Seeing the Zhao family elder's headless body thrown to the ground like a pile of rotten meat, the warriors of the righteous path suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. Chapter 1028. Even in the eyes of most of the big sects, cultivators at the spiritual refinement realm with true fire were unattainable. It was normal for cultivators at this realm to die or be killed. After all, there would always be someone stronger than you. However, Chu Xiu had killed a cultivator at the spiritual refinement realm with 2 punches as easily as killing a chicken. This scene was too shocking. Zhao Yuanfeng and the others broke through the shackles of the destructive fire. When they saw that the elder of the Zhao family was killed by Chu Xiu with 1 punch, their faces were extremely gloomy. Shameful, utterly shameful. It was 5 against 1, yet one of them was easily killed. Wasn't that embarrassing enough? But at the same time, they had to admit that although Chu Xiu was at the same realm as them, the spiritual refinement realm with true fire, his combat strength had almost reached the peak of the entire realm. The current Chu Xiu even made Zhao Yuanfeng think of one person, the sword sage of the Eastern Sea, Kang Dongming. That person used to be his foreign minister, but even he had to treat him politely, not daring to have any malice. Invincible among those at the same realm, the current Chu Xiu was almost qualified to be called that. The first one. Chu Xiu stretched out a finger, thinking that in the next moment, he would directly attack Yunmengzi. Again. Yunmengzi's expression suddenly changed. This time, the 4 of them directly attacked together, concentrating their strength on one point, intercepting Chu Xiu at the same time. In the next moment, Chu Xiu made a seal with his hand, and wisps of black aura bloomed from his body, pouring into the world, as if he was drawing the most extreme power of evil in this world. In the next moment, a ghostly murmur could be faintly heard. In the end, the murmur even turned into a mournful wail. As the voice descended, a scarlet rain of blood fell. The ferocious demon tore open the world in the void. With a palm strike, the joint attack of the 4 was instantly shattered. The 4 of them were directly blasted into the ground, leaving only a huge handprint on the ground. Once the devil-grieving heaven-weeping mantra was unleashed, its might was simply earth-shattering. The four of them were unable to stop it at all. Chu Xiu's inner force, true fire and world-extinguishing fire, burned together. Zhao Yuanfeng rushed over and was sent flying with a punch. Lu Chonglu slashed out with his Dao sword, but Lu Chongliu's divine weapon was shattered by his blade. Han Jiu wanted to set up a killing array to suppress it, but the world annihilation fire directly burned him into ashes. In the end, only Yunmengzi was left, struggling bitterly under Chu Xiu's attacks. However, without a weapon, he was beaten to the point of vomiting blood by Chu Xiu in just a few moves. Yunmengzi gritted his teeth and did not retreat. 800 years ago, he was also a genius of the generation. At this time, he had just stepped into the martial world again and caused such a huge storm. He did not believe that he would die like this, nor did he believe that he would be defeated like this. A blood-red sun rose from behind Yunmengzi. Within the boiling sun, there was a burning hot qi and blood, like magma. Seeing that Yunmengzi was about to go all out, Han Jusi and the others immediately wanted to help him. At this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly said, "Pavilion Master Zhao, I gave you a chance before, but you did not cherish it. Now, I'll give you another chance to choose a side. Although I was the one who killed that old guy from Jiangshan Pavilion, killing him is equivalent to helping you get rid of a piece of trash who was holding you back. If you betray me, Wei County will still be yours. As long as you give up the title of the country and come to Yanjing City to ask for forgiveness, I can protect your Jiangshan Pavilion. If you insist on being stubborn, you should know the outcome. The others may not know, but can't you predict who will win and who will lose? I've already given you Huoxingzuan's head. Why? Do you want me to go to the East China Sea and bring you the heads of Bailey Paobing, Fu Longshao, and Nailan Hai?" Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Zhao Yuanfeng's heart was instantly filled with a chill. The fact that Chu Xiu could name those people proved that his guess was right. Supreme Island was completely gone. If the fifth Lord Hua and the others were still around, even if he suffered in the Central Plains, he could still return to the overseas and make a comeback. But now that the fifth Lord Hua and the others were gone, would there still be a place for him to stay if he returned to the East China Sea? Moreover, he was now on the side of Eastern Qi and the righteous pugilistic world. If he lost this time, would Wei County still have a place for him? By then, there would be no place for him in the Central Plains, overseas, or even in the vast pugilistic world. Just as Zhao Yuanfeng was hesitating, Han Jusi and the others saw the hesitation on his face. Traitors, no matter where they were, weren't welcomed by people. If Zhao Yuanfeng could choose to betray the Northern Yen once, he could naturally choose to betray them again. When they heard Chu Xiu's words, there was no reason for them not to be suspicious. Seeing the expressions on Han Jusi and the others' faces, Zhao Yuanfeng smiled bitterly in his heart. He knew that they were beginning to suspect him. He did not blame Chu Xiu for trying to sow discord. It was just that they were in a union of benefits, and there were too many loopholes between them. Especially for people like Zhao Yuanfeng, he did not care about the righteous or the evil. All he cared about was benefits. Now that he had aroused Han Jusi's suspicions, Zhao Yuanfeng gritted his teeth and used the wave-breaker finger to attack Han Jusi. He had been forced into a corner and had chosen to go against Chu Xiu. There was no way for him to survive. Since he chose to betray them, he could only hope that Chu Xiu would choose to keep his promise. Zhao Yuanfeng. I knew that a shameless villain like you is absolutely unreliable. Seeing that Zhao Yuanfeng had betrayed them, Han Jusi could not help but curse angrily. Zhao Yuanfeng gritted his teeth and said, "When you tempted me, Jiangshan Pavilion, to help you, you made extravagant claims, saying that you would definitely win. What about now? The coast of Eastern Qi is about to be lost. How long can you hold on?" Han Jusi was stunned. What coast? Did something go wrong with Eastern Qi? Han Jusi was a martial artist from 800 years ago. He could not even recognize some of the forces in the Jianghu today, let alone those from overseas. But now that Zhao Yuanfeng had attacked, he had no time to ask any more questions. Seeing that Zhao Yuanfeng had successfully betrayed them, Chu Xiu swung the blade in his hand and used the misty slash. In an instant, the boiling blood-red sun behind Yunmengzi suddenly froze in place. The misty slash froze time and space. Yunmengzi roared, and all the blood and qi in his body began to boil and explode. That blood-red sun was so dazzling that it seemed as if he had used all of his strength to break free from the misty slash's imprisonment. But at this moment, Chu Xiu abruptly withdrew his blade, formed a seal with his hand, and spat out 2 words to Yunmengzi, "Goodbye." In the next moment, countless blood-red patterns erupted from Chu Xiu's body, affecting the qi and blood in Yunmengzi's body. The power of the blood demon divine art was unleashed to the extreme by Chu Xiu in an instant. Previously, in order to break free from the restraints of Chu Xiu's misty slash, Yunmengzi had completely unleashed the power of his blood qi to the point where he was unable to control it. Now, under the influence of Chu Xiu's blood demon power, it was like a bomb that had been ignited. With a loud bang, the huge blood-red sun had exploded before it could even reach Chu Xiu. In an instant, the entire battlefield was shrouded in blood-red sunlight, and Yunmengzi had been completely blown to pieces by the power he had gathered with all his might. The second one. Chu Xiu stretched out 2 fingers, but quickly retracted them. This was because it was similar to the hand gesture of, "yeah," when taking a picture. It was not a serious gesture in this situation, although no one here knew what it meant. Grandmaster Ling Yunzi, who was suppressing Shang Tianliang, roared angrily. His eyes were red, and it was obvious that he was extremely angry. In fact, Ling Yunzi did not have any feelings for Grandmaster Yunmengzi. Although Yunmengzi was indeed his grandmaster in terms of seniority, there was no debt of gratitude between them. He was even a little dissatisfied with Yunmengzi's radical character. However, no matter what, Yunmengzi was still a member of his Chunyang Dao sect. The leader of the 6 spiritual masters of this generation of Chunyang Dao sect died in the hands of Chu Xiu, and the leader of the 6 spiritual masters 800 years ago died in the hands of Chu Xiu. So, the leader of the 6 spiritual masters of Chunyang Dao sect was killed by Chu Xiu? This was too much. If Chu Xiu were to continue killing, their pure Yang Dao sect would simply become a laughingstock. In the end, no one would sit on this seat even if it was given to someone else for fear of being killed. Seeing that Chu Xiu had successfully angered a powerhouse in the mysterious realm of heaven and earth, Shang Tianliang immediately wanted to stop him. However, Chu Xiu said, "City Master Shang, let him come over. You deal with the others." Now that Shang Tianliang was seriously injured, he would not be able to stop Ling Yunzi for long. However, if the seriously injured Shang Tianliang were to deal with other martial artists in the spiritual cultivation realm of true fire, it would be much easier. As for whether Chu Xiu could stop Ling Yunzi, he had a certain degree of confidence. During the overseas trip, Chu Xiu's realm did not increase, but his understanding of the spiritual cultivation realm of true fire had increased to a higher level, and his combat power had increased a little. To put it simply, the current Chu Xiu was a little too arrogant. He believed that he had the strength to go against the mysterious realm of heaven and earth. Ling Yunzi came over in anger. He pointed the pure yang sword in his hand, and in an instant, thousands of sword flashes descended from the sky. A scorching aura instantly enveloped Chu Xiu. At that instant, Chu Xiu felt like he was above the sun. He could no longer see anything in front of him except for the glaring pure yang radiance. In the past, before Ling Yunzi had stepped into the mysterious realm of heaven and earth, Chu Xiu had fought with him, so he knew Ling Yunzi quite well. But today, when Ling Yunzi attacked again, even Chu Xiu had to admit that the difference between the mysterious realm of heaven and earth and the spiritual cultivation realm of true fire was like heaven and earth. From borrowing the power of heaven and earth to controlling the heaven and earth, Ling Yunzi had complete control over this area. Chu Xiu gave a low roar, and the evil moon saber bloomed with a blood moon. The moment the saber intent of the break formula appeared, it sliced through everything. The pure yang radiance was torn apart. The saber and sword collided, and a terrifying aura exploded. With the two of them as the epicenter, the scattered saber aura shattered the earth and rocks, but it was instantly melted by the scorching pure yang astral chi. Within a radius of a few hundred feet, it was like a lava hell. Chapter 1029. An existence at the mystic heaven and earth realm was not easy to block. Even though Chu Xiu was confident before, after exchanging a blow with Ling Yunzi, Chu Xiu's evil moon saber suddenly let out a sorrowful cry. The violent aura was constantly trembling, and Chu Xiu even had to exert himself to suppress the evil moon saber. What's going on? It shouldn't be time yet. Mental Demon said helplessly, it's not time yet, but I can't suppress the evil moon saber anymore. Your opponent is too strong, and that extreme pure yang power is not something that the evil moon saber can resist. His sword is not ordinary, and it has even injured the evil moon saber's weapon spirit. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes. Of course, he knew that his opponent's sword was not ordinary. It was Ancestor Lu's sword of pure yang in the past. However, he did not expect the evil moon saber to be so fragile that it could not withstand a single blow. Indeed, it was not convenient to use a weapon that was not his own. After putting away the evil moon saber, Ling Yunzi's longsword vibrated, drawing all the pure yang power in the world. It formed a huge domain and attacked Chu Xiu. Experts at the mystic heaven and earth realm controlled heaven and earth. In this domain, they were like gods. The power of such suppression was not ordinary. The devil whale heaven weeping great compassion mantra was unleashed once again. As the heaven weeping blood rain descended, the innate demon god tore the domain apart. However, it wasn't able to deal much damage to Ling Yunzi. After exchanging a few blows with Ling Yunzi, Chu Xiu was suppressed by Ling Yunzi. Now, he finally knew how big the gap was between him and an ordinary expert at the mystic heaven and earth realm like Ling Yunzi. Chu Xiu was able to block his opponent's attacks, but practically every time he blocked, he would have to use his full strength, using all of his strength in order to be able to contend against them. On the other hand, although Ling Yunzi was furious, he had been stabilizing his power to a certain level. He was waiting for Chu Xiu to be unable to hold on any longer. Then, he would strike like a thunderbolt and destroy Chu Xiu completely with the swiftest power. To be honest, this kind of fighting style was not very good to look at. Most warriors advocated for a thunderous strike, directly defeating the opponent. Ling Yunzi, who was in the profound enlightenment of heaven and earth realm, was fighting against Chu Xiu, a martial artist in the true fire spirit refinement realm. He was bullying the weak with his strength, and he even used this kind of fighting method. It was inevitable that people would look down on him. However, Ling Yunzi himself did not feel that way. To him, if he could successfully kill Chu Xiu, what was his reputation worth? Although this seemingly gentle and steady fighting style could not do anything to Chu Xiu for the time being, it made Chu Xiu feel that it was even more troublesome. Suddenly, Chu Xiu spoke to the side, "Everyone from Sword King City, stop watching the show and lend me a hand. I have something good for all of you." The people from Sword King City had been watching the show for a long time. Previously, they had thought that the hidden devil lineage would definitely lose. However, who would have thought that after Chu Xiu appeared, his actions would be reversed? However, not long after the reversal, Chu Xiu's side was once again being suppressed by Ling Yunzi. Now, even Heavenly King Shen did not dare to say which side would win this battle. Therefore, he wisely chose not to get involved in this matter and chose to watch the show. Even Heavenly King Shen was taken aback by Chu Xiu's sudden words. He really dared to speak up. One had to know that the relationship between Sword King City and Chu Xiu was not harmonious. Although he was good friends with Fang Qishao, Sword King City did not belong to Fang Qishao alone. He could not influence Sword King City's attitude toward Chu Xiu and the hidden devil lineage. It was already kind enough that he did not add insult to injury, but Chu Xiu actually wanted them to help him. What was he thinking? Did he think that Sword King City was so easy to deal with? However, before Heavenly King Shen could speak, Chu Xiu quickly took out a pill that radiated sword qi after blocking Ling Yunzi's attack. He said, "Legend has it that a sword pill left behind by an ancient sword cultivator. This is completely intact. Take it and it will be enough for Sword King City to deduce the complete mystic art of condensing a sword pill. Is this enough for Sword King City to help us?" The moment they saw the sword pill, the cultivators of Sword King City were tempted. Although it was recorded in the ancient records that something like a sword pill was too time-consuming, the gains did not make up for the losses in condensing it. However, the Sword King City's martialists would spend most of their time cultivating in the desolate and uninhabited western desert. Therefore, they had the most time. Most importantly, as a sword cultivator, no one could refuse such a famous mystic art from ancient times. Seeing that the people of Sword King City were tempted, Ling Yunzi immediately said, "Sect Master Shen, this is the battlefield of the righteous path and the fiend path. Both sides are destined to fight to the death. It's fine if Sword King City didn't join in, but if you join in now, you will become an enemy of the righteous path." Heavenly King Shen laughed and said, "Daoist Ling Yunzi, this kind of threat is meaningless. Sword King City is far away in the western desert. We usually don't become enemies with the Central Plains warriors, not because we are magnanimous, but because we don't have enough benefits. But I'm sorry, Sword King City has already seen the benefits. If we don't join in, how can we face ourselves? If you can also take out something comparable to the sword pill, we can also counterattack Chu Xiu now. After all, the highest bidder wins. Even if we sell ourselves, we have to sell ourselves for a good price." Ling Yunzi and the rest of the righteous path were helpless against Heavenly King Shen's blatant utilitarianism. This was because Sword King City had never been a kind party to begin with. In the western desert, there were countless small countries in the western region. To them, Sword King City was definitely a transcendent existence. If they were in a good mood, they would help them dominate a region. If they were in a bad mood, they could casually cut off their king's head and kick it like a ball. It was all very normal. To Sword King City, those who weren't of the same race were bound to have different intentions. Were barbarians even human? Therefore, they didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. At the same time, because Sword King City was dealing with the foreign tribes of the western region, they didn't attract the attention of the righteous path sections. Otherwise, if they brought their methods to the righteous path sects, they would definitely be banished to the diabolical path. Heavenly King Shen deliberately waited for a while. Seeing that Ling Yunzi didn't say anything, he shook his head and sighed. Looks like sect leader Ling Yunzi can't take out anything to tempt Sword King City. Then I'm sorry. This time, don't blame Sword King City for not standing on your side. Heavenly King Shen was a man who looked rough on the surface but was actually very meticulous. Sword King City didn't stand on anyone's side. They only thought from their own standpoint. Sword King City had sided with the righteous path during the Great War between moon-worshipping sect and the diabolical path because Yi Xiaonan, the current #1 cultivator of the diabolical path, was too powerful. This time, Sword King City had chosen to stand on Chu Xiu's side. It actually didn't have much to do with Feng Qi Xiao. It was just that the sword pill, a long-lost cultivation technique, was indeed very tempting to a swordsman. Moreover, this time, the diabolical path had been forced into a corner. Therefore, it was necessary for him to switch sides. With the participation of the Sword King City cultivators, the situation on the battlefield had been completely reversed. Although Shang Tianliang's side was heavily injured, it was still no problem for him to deal with a true fire cultivator at the spirit refinement stage. The remaining ones, Lu Fengxian, Lu Jianghe, and the others, were all people who could fight one against many. In this way, the scales of victory had already been tipped. Intense killing intent flashed across Ling Yunzi's eyes when he saw this. He couldn't let this drag on any longer. Originally, he wanted to exhaust Chu Xiu to death. However, with the addition of Sword King City, he might not be able to exhaust Chu Xiu to death. Instead, he might be the one who couldn't hold on for much longer. The diabolical path had an alliance, but the core of the alliance was Chu Xiu. As long as Chu Xiu didn't die, the alliance wouldn't be destroyed. The righteous path was also an alliance, but even they didn't know what the core of the alliance was. Some did it for personal grudges, some to eliminate demons, and some for benefits. All kinds of people were mixed in. It was fine when the wind was favorable, but once they encountered adversity, it was likely that they would be the first to collapse. Ling Yunzi's long sword slashed across his palm, causing hot blood to splatter along the pure yang sword. The long sword pointed to the sky. At this moment, the world seemed to come to a standstill as the grand sun's radiance poured into Ling Yunzi's body. Experts at the mysterious heaven and earth realm could control a part of the world, but this part of the world also had a limit. Ling Yunzi couldn't control the power of the grand sun. But now, he had forcibly used the pure yang divine weapon as a guide to guide the power of the grand sun into his part of the world and reshape the blazing sun. Sensing this power, Chu Xiu's figure quickly retreated. Although it was worth showing off to force an expert at the mysterious heaven and earth realm to the extreme, it was also extremely dangerous. However, the moment Chu Xiu's figure moved, an endless pulling force suddenly came from behind him, pulling Chu Xiu toward the place where the blazing sun was rising. Like the morning sun rising from the east, the blazing sun grew bigger and bigger, and the pulling force also grew stronger. Forced into a corner, Chu Xiu had no choice but to temporarily give up on escaping. The next moment, boundless blood qi bloomed and rose around his body. Between heaven and earth, the angry roars of demons and gods resounded one after another. Once the blood demon transformation technique was used, the powerful force was even able to compete with the current Ling Yunzi. However, the power of the blood demon transformation technique only existed for a moment. In the next moment, it was already enveloped by the endless grand sun's radiance. Seeing this scene, Heavenly King Shen's expression immediately changed. He didn't care if Chu Xiu died, but the problem was, you should first take out the sword sphere before you die. Now that you're dead, who do we care about getting the sword sphere? As expected, the next time he did something like this, it was more reliable to first ask for the deposit. At this moment, Wei Shuya saw that Chu Xiu was enveloped by the grand sun's radiance. His expression suddenly changed, and he immediately wanted to rescue him. This time, he was already prepared to die. He was an old man with one foot in the grave. If he died, then so be it. However, if Chu Xiu also died, then the Hidden Devil clan would be completely destroyed. However, before he could move, Lu Jianghu stopped him. Narrowing his eyes, he said, "Don't worry, I won't die so easily. With the sect leader's eternal demon pill, no matter how big of a death he seeks, he will still have a chance of survival. Moreover, do you really think that kid is the kind of person who would sacrifice himself for others? Don't joke around. If he didn't have a foolproof plan, he wouldn't have fought head-on." Chapter 1030. Lu Jianghu was definitely not the person closest to Chu Xiu, but he could be considered the person who understood Chu Xiu the most. If Chu Xiu died so easily, then he would not be Chu Xiu. Sure enough, under Ling Yunzi's powerful attack, the area within a few miles with the two of them as the epicenter had already been scorched. The ground had been melted by the scorching high temperature, turning into a pool of strange crystals that shone with a glazed luster. A blood cocoon stood on the ground where Chu Xiu had been. In the next moment, the blood cocoon split open, revealing Chu Xiu's pale face. The all-out attack of a heaven and earth abstruse realm expert was indeed not that easy to resist. If Ling Yunzi had been a little stronger, even with the blood demon transformation technique, Chu Xiu would not have been able to resist it. Moreover, the effects of the undying demon pill were also able to display the greatest power under such a powerful force. When the powerful pure yang energy penetrated the blood cocoon and attacked Chu Xiu's body, if it had been anyone else, their injuries would have become more and more serious. However, because of the eternal demon pill, as long as this force was not strong enough to destroy Chu Xiu's body in an instant, the eternal demon pill could temporarily offset this force. Ling Yunzi looked at Chu Xiu, the fear in his eyes could not be any greater. Chu Xiu had used true fire to resist the all-out attack of a heaven and earth abstruse realm expert, but he could still resist it. This kind of strength was already extremely shocking. Although Chu Xiu was powerful now, he was still young. Everyone thought that the most terrifying thing about Chu Xiu was his strength and his ruthless methods. However, they did not know that the most terrifying thing about Chu Xiu was his age, because there were countless possibilities in his future. In time, would he become the next Yi Xiaonan? Would he become the next Dugu Weiwei? Ling Yunzi didn't dare to continue thinking about it. At this moment, his fear of Chu Xiu had reached its peak. The entire Hidden Devil clan was not as threatening as Chu Xiu. He had made up his mind that he must kill Chu Xiu on the spot this time. Even if he was injured, he must kill Chu Xiu. However, at this moment, a warrior from the real martial arts sect took out a matrix board. The matrix Dao's radiance flickered on it and converged into runes that flowed into his body. After he finished reading the contents of the rune, the expression of the martial artist of the real martial sect suddenly changed. He shouted, "Not good. Sect leader, Eastern Qi has retreated." Just now, there was news that the cultivators from overseas had attacked the border of Eastern Qi. Because there was no one there to defend Eastern Qi, they had already lost 2 counties in a single day. Eastern Qi has now recalled all the strong armies of the 9 borders. At the same time, the 5 armies of the northern Yan state have begun to march towards Shangmang Mountain to support Wei County. Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed. No one had expected that the first to retreat this time would not be them, but Eastern Qi. However, they couldn't do anything about it. The righteous martial arts world and the Eastern Qi imperial court had only joined forces. What could they do if Eastern Qi wanted to retreat? Moreover, based on Lu Haochang's character, if Lu Haochang didn't retreat after such a major incident, he wouldn't be Lu Haochang. If it had been a decisive and courageous emperor, they might have persisted. After all, the northern Yan side was on the verge of collapse. It wouldn't be too late to deal with the cultivators of Eastern Qi after they had completely defeated the northern Yan. After all, the latter was just a minor ailment. With just the cultivators of Eastern Qi, they couldn't directly occupy Eastern Qi. However, the problem was that Lu Haochang didn't have the courage to do so. For Lu Haochang, being able to protect the family property left behind by his ancestors was enough. He didn't care about other achievements if he could get them. His bottom line was to protect the family property of his ancestors. Therefore, he didn't dare to take this gamble. When the crowd heard the news of Eastern Qi's retreat, the cultivators of Eastern Qi's righteous sects, some of them were rogue cultivators, and people from other sections. They looked at each other and quietly withdrew from the battle. With the retreat of Eastern Qi, they had already lost this round. If they continued to fight, they would only increase the number of casualties. There was no point in continuing. They came here for the benefits. Now that they couldn't see any benefits, what was the point of continuing to fight? Their departure was like an avalanche, causing a chain reaction. Those who originally didn't plan to leave also began to retreat. The righteous sects were an alliance to begin with. During the first battle, there was already a sense of instability. This time, it was even more so. Seeing those from the alliance of the righteous sects retreating one by one, Han Jusi and the others wanted to stop them, but how could they? In an instant, the righteous sects, who had the advantage in numbers, suddenly lost nearly half of their members. Chu Xiu looked at Ling Yunzi with a pale face and sneered, "Leader Ling Yunzi, continue to fight. Let's make a bet. Let's see if it's me or your side that can't hold on first." Ling Yunzi's face was extremely gloomy. The scene in front of him was almost exactly the same as the time when he led Chunyang Dao's sect to attack Chu Xiu. He was once again caught in a dilemma. He could see that Chu Xiu was not in a good state at this time. Although he could resist the power of the mysterious realm of heaven and earth, he was after all not in the mysterious realm of heaven and earth. He could hold on for a while, but Ling Yunzi did not believe that he could hold on until the end. However, the problem was that half of the people from the righteous sects had left. The disciples on his side were also in low spirits. On the other hand, although everyone on the side of the diabolism was also injured, their spirits were high. In this way, if the battle continued, would the Chunyang Dao sect, the real martial arts sect, and the other sects be able to hold on? So now, they were in this awkward situation again. After a long while, Ling Yunzi closed his eyes and shouted in a low voice, "Retreat." He still did not have the determination to perish together with Chu Xiu. It should be said that even if he had the determination, the Chunyang Dao sect did not. With the Chunyang Dao sect's retreat, the alliance of the righteous sects had completely collapsed. This made all the diabolism martial artists present heave a sigh of relief. They did not win this time, but they had successfully pulled through. Before anyone could say anything, Heavenly King Shen had already walked over with his people. He looked at Chu Xiu without saying a word. His intention was already very clear. Chu Xiu did not mind. He directly threw the sword ball to Heavenly King Shen. This thing was useless to him, so it was worth it to exchange it for Sword King City's help. Fang Qi Shao chuckled at the side and said, "Brother Chu, you have to thank me this time. Those guys from the Chunyang Dao sect attacked you, but I stood firmly on your side. You are the landlord over at Northern Yen. In the future, when I come to Northern Yen, will I not have to spend money to visit the brothels? Drag him away." Heavenly King Shen roared with a dark face. Bai Qian immediately dragged Fang Qi Shao away, lest he tarnished Sword King City's reputation. In the past, Chu Xiu and Fang Qi Shao were of the same generation, but they were all elites on the Longhu list. But looking at Chu Xiu and then at Fang Qi Shao, Heavenly King Shen had the urge to drag the seventh young master out and beat him up. He coughed and said in a low voice, "Official Chu, where did you find this sword ball? If you find a relic of a Sword Dao elite, Sword King City is willing to pay a high price for it." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "I'm afraid you'll be disappointed, sect leader Shen. I found this sword ball by accident overseas. I didn't find any relic." Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Heavenly King Shen could only give up. But he still asked curiously, "Official Chu, there's something I'm curious about. How did you convince those overseas people to help? I've come into contact with those overseas martial artists. They're a bunch of people who won't do anything unless they see something good. They won't help unless they see something good in it. Especially that fifth Lord Hua from Paragon Island. That old man is not easy to deal with. Of course, if this matter is related to some secrets of official Chu, it's fine if you don't tell me. I'm just a little curious." Heavenly King Shen was also aware of his status. Although he was on Chu Xiu's side this time, it didn't mean he would always be on Chu Xiu's side. They couldn't be considered allies. It was just an exchange of benefits. It was normal that Chu Xiu didn't tell him. At that moment, Wei Shuya and the other hidden demons were all looking at Chu Xiu. Clearly, they were also a little curious about what Chu Xiu had done overseas. There was no need to hide these things. Chu Xiu just smiled and said, "It's very simple. When I first came to overseas, they weren't very willing to cooperate with me, especially that fifth Lord Hua. So I killed that fifth Lord Hua and destroyed Paragon Island. Then, I let those who were willing to cooperate with me and help me control overseas. That's all." Hearing Chu Xiu tell the story so casually, everyone present felt a chill in their hearts. Chu Xiu had actually overturned all the forces in the Endless Sea Islands after a trip to the Endless Sea Islands. This kind of behavior was simply chilling. He had said it casually, but in reality, who knew how many people had been killed and how much blood had been shed? Even Heavenly King Shen had to admit that he was impressed. He immediately bid farewell and left. He didn't dare to listen anymore. He was afraid that if he did, he would hear something that would ruin his worldview. After Heavenly King Shen left, Chu Xiu cupped his fists at everyone present. Everyone, thank you for your hard work. The hidden demons regarded Chu Xiu as their core, but they couldn't ignore the role of others. If it weren't for them, even if Chu Xiu had persuaded the East Sea forces to help, the Northern Yen wouldn't have lasted until now. But this battle wasn't without benefits. Although Chu Xiu had lost some of his subordinates, some of them had become much stronger. Lu Fengxian had already stepped into the true fire spirit refinement stage. Even Chu Xiu was extremely surprised. Among the elites on the Longhu leaderboard, Chu Xiu, Zhong Xian, and Zhang Qingzhen were recognized as the strongest. Although Lu Fengxian had become a hot topic because of Yan Fian, most people still thought that Lu Fengxian couldn't compare to those three. But now, Lu Fengxian had become the second person on the Longhu leaderboard to step into the true fire spirit refinement stage in Chu Xiu's generation. This was enough to shock everyone. Chapter 1031. Lu Fengxian's improvement was obvious to all, but the others, such as Mei Qinglian, were not bad either. Although Mei Qinglian had not stepped into the true fire spirit refinement realm, Chu Xiu could feel that she was only one step away from it. Perhaps if she went into seclusion again, she would be in the true fire spirit refinement realm. Shang Tianliang said impatiently, "Kid, if you had been more magnanimous last time and let me bring everyone from Merchant City out, we might not have had such a hard time this time." Chu Xiu said directly, "No problem, I will bring everyone from Merchant City out of Green City next time." Shang Tianliang looked at Chu Xiu suspiciously. Since when was this kid so generous? Chu Xiu was not being generous, but Shang Tianliang had wholeheartedly stood by his side this time, which had won Chu Xiu's trust. Chu Xiu was a very suspicious person, but on the other hand, if someone could win Chu Xiu's trust, Chu Xiu would also give them enough benefits without asking for anything in return. Wei Shuya said in a low voice, "It's good that we won. My Devil Dao has experienced so many ups and downs over the years, it's not easy for us to persevere until now. Although it was dangerous this time, I know that my Devil Dao can still pull through." Chu Wuji teased, "Old Wei, that's not what you said before. You were prepared to risk your life to cover the retreat." Wei Shuya glared at him and said, "What does the Devil Dao being able to pull through have to do with me dying or not? Don't bicker here." Wei Shuya waved his hand and said, "All right, we can talk when we get back. First, send the injured to Divine Dr. Feng for treatment." In this battle, the hidden Devil Dao had suffered a lot of losses. Just the casualties of the low-level warriors alone was close to 1/5. If other sects had suffered such losses, they would have collapsed long ago. It was only because of Chu Xiu and Wei Shuya's high prestige that they were able to hold on until now. Just then, Zhao Yuanfeng walked over and said humbly, "Official Chu, this time, Jiangshan Pavilion doesn't want to be your enemy. However, the Eastern Qi had lied to us, and we knew that the Northern Yen was using us. That was why we betrayed them. Please forgive us, Official Chu." Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "Pavilion Master Zhao, don't worry about it. I know your difficulties. People in the pugilistic world can't help themselves. I, Chu Xiu, am a man of my word. I said that I won't hold you accountable, so I won't. All you have to do is head to the Northern Yen Empire and apologize to His Majesty, and this matter will be resolved. You might even be able to keep your Weigua." Zhao Yuanfeng didn't expect that Chu Xiu, who was rumored to be narrow-minded and vengeful, would have such a magnanimous side. He was even prepared to pay a huge price, but Chu Xiu had let it go so easily. It seemed that sometimes the rumors were not true. Although this official Chu was ruthless, he was still very broad-minded. After Zhao Yuanfeng left, everyone looked at Chu Xiu in surprise. Chu Xiu was puzzled. "Everyone, why are you looking at me like that?" Lu Jiang, he was puzzled. "Since when did you become so generous? You let this two-faced guy go just like that?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "It's because he's a two-faced person that I chose to let him go." Zhao Yuanfeng, or rather, the entire Jiangshan pavilion, has nothing but profit in their eyes. When I killed his adoptive father, did you see any sadness in him? People like him aren't scary. As long as I maintain my strength, he won't dare to do anything to me. Moreover, this time, Zhao Yuanfeng has truly offended Eastern Qi. Traitors are detestable, but traitors who betray us twice are even more detestable. If the Northern Yan Empire doesn't take him in, there's no place for him in Jiangshan Pavilion among the Central Plains warriors. After saying this, the others wasted no time. They quickly brought the man back to the suppression hall and handed him over to Feng Bupo for treatment. Meanwhile, Chu Xiu had also heard about the recent happenings. When he heard that Situ Qi had joined forces with Si Wuya and the others to rob the lurking devil progeny, Chu Xiu's foundation, killing intent flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. In order to resist foreign aggression, one must first find a time to deal with these fellows. In truth, the Kunlun devil cult had experienced something similar when they rose to power. However, at that time, Dugu Weiwei and the Kunlun devil cult were powerful enough. Their methods were simple and brutal. There was only one word to describe it: kill. After killing all those who opposed the Kunlun demon sect to the point of begging for mercy, shouting for the sacred sect to last for 10,000 generations, the entire Kunlun demon sect would naturally be unified, and there would be no more voices of opposition. Now, Chu Xiu wanted to do the same. With his current strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to get rid of this bunch of guys. However, Chu Xiu had too many things to deal with. Moreover, there were people like the Crimson Drill Devil sect and Umoya who remained neutral in the lurking devil progeny. If Chu Xiu decided to kill them, they might attack or stop him. Therefore, Chu Xiu had to think of a suitable reason to kill them. After listening to them, Chu Xiu told them about his journey overseas. Although everyone already knew that Chu Xiu had gone on a killing spree in the Outer Sea, after hearing Chu Xiu recount everything in detail, they could not help feeling horrified. At the same time, they also observed a moment of silence for the cultivators of the Outer Sea. This time, it was a fierce battle between Chu Xiu and the righteous path of martial arts. In the end, the biggest loss was not on Chu Xiu's side, nor on the righteous path of martial arts. It was actually on the side of the martial arts overseas. This was a little funny. Especially when they heard that Huixingzuan wanted to adopt Chu Xiu as his son, they thought that Huixingzuan was simply tired of living too long. Or perhaps, even God felt that he had lived for too long. Therefore, he lost his mind at the critical moment and made such a suicidal decision. At this time, Chu Xiu suddenly asked Lu Jianghe, "I met a cultivator by Huixingzuan's side. He used the most orthodox inheritance of the Kunlun devil cult. He knew my Triple City Annihilation Arrow and Patriarch Dugu's Heavenly Demon Palm. At the same time, he also condensed a Dharma idol. The Dharma idol's chest was transparent, but it could absorb and distort the power of Earth Qi. I searched his memory, and in the end, I saw two corpses emitting devil Qi sitting on the bronze thrones. His devil cult martial arts came from there. Old Lu, can you see the identity of the other party from these fragments?" Lu Jiang he suddenly stood up and said with a slightly excited voice, "One of them is the Heartless Demon Lord. That is the unique Dharma idol of the Heartless Demon Lord. And if I didn't guess wrongly, those two people are definitely two of the four great demon lords. That bronze throne is the exclusive seat of our holy cult's demon lords. Only the four great demon lords are qualified to have it. Old man Wei should know this. Wei Shuya nodded at the side and said, it's more or less like that. Now, when the hidden devil lineage is having a meeting, the bronze throne that they sit on is an imitation of the 4 great demon lords of the past. However, the real bronze throne had already disappeared when the Kunlun devil cult was destroyed. Lu Jianghu continued, it's very normal for them to know the Triple City Annihilation Arrow. The Triple City Annihilation Arrow was brought out by the cult leader from the Black Sky Demon cult. Anyone who is interested can go and cultivate it. It's just that other than the cult leader, no one can comprehend the essence of the world annihilation flame. Or perhaps it's not compatible with the Triple City Annihilation Arrow. So even if they cultivated it, they almost never used it. You brat, your luck is really not bad. You actually managed to find this opportunity after a trip overseas. Everyone present subconsciously looked at Lu Fengxian. In terms of luck, Chu Xiu really couldn't be compared to this person. Chu Xiu nodded and said, so I'm going to wait for a few days. After everyone has recuperated, I'll go to the East Sea again to find the inheritance of the 2 demon lords. After exchanging a few more pleasantries with everyone went back to cultivating and recuperating. However, Chu Xiu noticed that Lu Fengxian didn't go to cultivate. He couldn't help but be surprised and said, Brother Lu, aren't you going to go into seclusion for a period of time to stabilize your realm? Lu Fengxian scratched his head and said, I don't seem to need to stabilize my realm. When I stepped into the true fire spirit refinement realm, Lu Wenho's primordial spirit fragment had already completely fused with me. So now, not only do I not need to cultivate, but I also feel that I have complete control of the power of the true fire spirit refinement realm. Chu Xiu couldn't help but be speechless when he heard that. Just now, Lu Jianghu said that he was lucky. The person who really had great luck was still Lu Fengxian. Brother Chu, you seem to have to be careful this time. I can feel that the Chunyang Dao sect, or rather, the entire Orthodox Dao sect, won't let this go. The next time they make a move, I'm afraid their power won't be like this now. Lu Fengxian wasn't very good at such tactics, but even if he wasn't good at it, he could feel the threat that Chu Xiu posed to the entire Orthodox Dao sect. He had threatened the Great Light Temple, started a massacre in the East Sea, and destroyed the Orthodox Dao Alliance. Everything that Chu Xiu had done was no less threatening than Yi Xiaonan's. When Chu Xiu didn't have Yi Xiaonan's strength, he already had a threat that was comparable to Yi Xiaonan's. If Chu Xiu reached Yi Xiaonan's realm, how terrifying would he be? Other people didn't dare to think about this, nor did they dare to say it. Anyway, if the next Orthodox Dao war started again, it would probably be the time when life and death would really be decided. Chu Xiu said faintly, I've also thought about this, but when they make a move next time, Chu Xiu won't be the current Chu Xiu. They can't do anything to me now, and they won't be able to do anything to me in the future. Hearing Chu Xiu say this, Lu Fengxian felt at ease, because Chu Xiu wasn't a person who would boast. He would only say such words if he had the ability. Lu Fengxian had many friends, but there weren't many of them who knew each other until the end. Chu Xiu was a good friend that he had known since he was insignificant, so he didn't want anything to happen to Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu had helped him too much, but his strength was limited, so he could only repay Chu Xiu this much. When the next Orthodox Dao war started, even if the threat was greater and the strength was stronger, Lu Fengxian would still charge forward with his halberd. Chapter 1032. Chu Xiu stayed in Jianghu Hall for 3 months. During these 3 months, Chu Xiu was not idle. After the war, as the leader of the Yinma clan, Jianghu Hall, and other forces, there were too many things for him to deal with. He needed to report to the Northern Yan Imperial Court. After the war, the Northern Yan was the winner because they defeated Eastern Qi once again and completely destroyed the last bit of ambition of Lu Haochang. Therefore, from now until Lu Haochang died, the Northern Yan did not have to worry about the threat from Eastern Qi. At the same time, Zhao Yuanfeng also went to the Northern Yan Imperial Court to apologize. His attitude was very humble. Chu Xiu also found a time to go to Ludu and bring out the last people in the shopping mall. In fact, Chu Xiu was also interested in the other people in the shopping mall, but he did not take action. The reason was very simple. Those people were not people that he could control. The reason why Chu Xiu could control the people in the shopping mall was because of Shang Tianliang. Now Shang Tianliang was completely on his side, and Shang Tianliang could completely control the shopping mall. As for the other people in Ludu, Chu Xiu dared not guarantee. As for Mei Qinglian, she had successfully stepped into the true fire spiritual refinement realm in less than a month. Chu Xiu was waiting at the door to welcome her. Seeing Chu Xiu standing there, Mei Qinglian smiled proudly and said, "In the past, I was always here to welcome you when you came out. It's rare for me to have this kind of treatment." Chu Xiu's talent was undoubtedly very despairing. At the very least, Mei Qinglian had seen Chu Xiu break through in seclusion many times. Every time, Chu Xiu would bring her a pleasant surprise or a shock. But this time, when she broke through to the true fire spirit refining realm, she dared not say that she could be compared with Chu Xiu, but at least she would not be defeated like this every time. Mei Qinglian, who had just stepped into the true fire spirit refinement realm, had an extremely strange feeling. Although her appearance had not changed at all, her temperament had become even more beautiful and alluring. She was extremely alluring, and even Chu Xiu was stunned when he first saw her. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "It's fine. You'll get used to welcoming me when I come out of seclusion later." Mei Qinglian was so shocked that she covered her mouth. "You're going to step into the mysterious state of heaven and earth?" If it was anyone else, Mei Qinglian would definitely think that they were daydreaming. But if it was Chu Xiu, it might not be the case. Chu Xiu said seriously, "Take a guess." After saying that, Chu Xiu left, leaving Mei Qinglian in shock. She really couldn't tell if Chu Xiu was telling the truth or lying to her. 3 months later, Chu Xiu was almost done with the matters on his side, so he prepared to head overseas. Because this matter was related to the demon Dao, Chu Xiu only brought people from the hidden demon clan with him. There were Wei Shuya, Lu Jianghe, Mei Qinglian, and Chu Wuji. Since Chu Xiu had just started fighting with Eastern Qi, it was not appropriate for him to go from Eastern Qi. Therefore, like last time, he went to the 6th demon sect in the South Sea, borrowed a boat from Yibuxuan, and sailed from the South Sea to the East Sea. At the Supreme Island in the East Sea, the name of the island had been changed to Qingfeng Island. Bai Donglai was quite good at winning over the hearts of the people. He knew that he could not compare to Huixingzuan, who walked the path of absolute power. Therefore, he chose to walk the path of being close to the people. Pak Donglai publicly announced that there were no Supremes in the breezy ocean, so Supreme Island was changed to Qingfeng Island. This meant that it was an island shared by all martial artists in the breezy ocean and anyone could get on the island. But in reality, Supreme Island was still managed by Pak Donglai and the others. At the moment, Pak Donglai was dealing with some complicated matters on Supreme Island. As the actual manager of the breezy ocean, Pak Donglai had a bunch of troublesome matters to deal with. Suddenly, a servant came to report that official Chu had returned. Pak Donglai was shocked. That's right. There was only shock, no joy. After the battle on Supreme Island, Pak Donglai witnessed Chu Xiu's frighteningly powerful strength. But at the same time, he was extremely fearful of that strength. Working with Chu Xiu once was enough. He followed Chu Xiu's request to attack Eastern Qi and loot a large amount of resources. Initially, he thought that the contact between them would end like that. When Chu Xiu said that they would meet again, Pak Donglai thought that it was just a polite remark from Chu Xiu. He didn't expect him to really come looking for him. While Pak Donglai didn't know what to do, he was also wondering what Chu Xiu was trying to do by coming here. Could it be that he has ulterior motives for the East Sea? Despite his suspicions, Pak Donglai quickly adjusted his mentality and walked out with a warm smile on his face. When he saw Chu Xiu, Wei Shuya, and the others in the hall, Pak Donglai was shocked. Wei Shuya, Lu Jianghe, Mei Qinglian, and Chu Wuji were all in the true fire spirit refinement state. He couldn't see through 3 of them. Was this Chu Xiu's strength in the Central Plains? It was terrifying. At the thought of this, Pak Donglai became even more humble. He lowered his head and bowed to Chu Xiu. I didn't expect to see official Chu again so soon. It seems like the crisis in the Central Plains has been resolved by official Chu. Congratulations. When Wei Shuya and the others saw Pak Donglai's attitude, they were all surprised. There was no other reason other than the fact that the current master of the East Sea was simply too humble in front of Chu Xiu. It could even be said that he was bowing and scraping. What exactly did Chu Xiu do in the East Sea to actually scare him to such an extent? Seeing Pak Donglai's expression, Chu Xiu could almost guess what was on his mind. He smiled and said, "Don't be nervous, Mr. Bo. I'm not interested in the underworld forces in the East Sea. I'm only here to look for something." Pak Donglai let out a sigh of relief and laughed. "What are you talking about, official Chu? Why would I be nervous? Whatever official Chu is looking for, I'll do my best to cooperate with him." Chu Xiu drew the sea map that the inner demon had extracted from Shadow's memory. Of course, it was somewhat specious. "I'm looking for an island in this sea. I'm not familiar with the overseas area, so I'll need your help, Mr. Bo." Hearing that it was just a small matter, Pak Donglai let out a sigh of relief. However, when Pak Donglai saw the sea map, Pak Donglai frowned and said, "It's a little difficult for official Chu to find the place. Looking at the approximate location of the sea, this place should be in between the wind-splitting sea and the wind-splitting sea. However, the sea is too big and boundless. There are fixed routes between the wind-splitting sea and the wind-splitting sea. I've traveled between these 2 places several times in my early years, but I've never seen the sea. Moreover, the map's description is too vague. It's difficult to find the location by relying on it." After saying this, Pak Donglai noticed that Chu Xiu's eyes seemed to be a little gloomy. He quickly said, "Of course, it's not that there's no other way. I might not be able to find it, but some people might. Go, find Old Song for me." After saying that, Pak Donglai directly ordered someone to bring a skinny old man. He only had the strength of the Xiantian realm. After seeing Pak Donglai, the old man looked very frightened. Pak Donglai pointed to the old man and said, "This person is Fu Longxiao's subordinate, the oldest helmsman in the Blue Dragon fleet. He has been at sea since he was born. He followed Fu Longxiao to the wind-splitting sea and the wind-splitting sea countless times. He's very experienced. I might not be able to find the location on the map, but Old Song might be able to." After saying that, Pak Donglai turned his gaze to Old Song and said, "Old Song, this is an opportunity for you. Help official Chu find this place. Although the Blue Dragon fleet is gone, my Tianyishui Hall's fleet is still here. When the time comes, I'll give you a ship and let you be the captain." When Old Song heard this, he quickly patted his chest and said, "Sir, rest assured, this old man has drifted on the sea for a lifetime. This old man knows how many trees are on each island. I won't let you down." Fu Longxiao's Blue Dragon fleet has long been cleaned up by Pak Donglai. This Old Song was able to escape this calamity because he's just a nobody. Chu Xiu threw the map to Old Song and asked, "How sure are you?" Old Song carefully stared at the map for a long time and said, "I can't say that I'm 100% sure, but I've been to places adjacent to this sea. I can calculate the approximate location. I'm about 80% sure." Hearing Old Song say this, Chu Xiu didn't delay and directly brought Old Song to the wind-splitting sea to find the place. This Old Song is worthy of Pak Donglai's recommendation. He has some real ability. Just by relying on a blurry sea map, the other party actually managed to find the sea within a month. The place is located at the junction of the wind-splitting sea and the Wind Sea, but it's extremely remote. Moreover, it's full of wind and waves. Ships don't choose this place as their route. Therefore, after so many years, except for Ing, no one has discovered this place. Old Song pointed to an island in the distance and said, "Sir, there's only one island in this sea. If there's no problem, it should be there." After finding the place, Old Song breathed a sigh of relief. This kind of mission from a big shot, if done well, there'll be rewards, if not done well, it'll become a suicide mission. Chu Xiu nodded and said, "All right, you wait here for a while, we'll go to the island." After saying that, Chu Xiu and Wei Shuya and the others went to the island. Just as they stepped on the island, Chu Xiu and the others felt an extremely pure devil qi. They looked at each other. Sure enough, it should be here. Following the devil qi, everyone carefully searched and finally found the source of the devil qi. It's a bottomless cave. Heartless Demon Venerable and another Demon Venerable from the Kunlun devil cult should have fallen here. Chapter 1033. In the pitch-black cave, waves of pure devil qi came rushing over. Chu Xiu did not rashly enter, because he remembered that Ing had entered before, and only escaped when he was on the verge of death. Ing was a rogue cultivator from the wind-splitting sea, and his good friends should also be in the true fire spirit refinement realm, but they all died here. One could imagine how dangerous this cave was. Chu Xiu said to Lu Jianghu, "What kind of people were the Heartless Demon Venerable and the other Demon Venerables of the devil cult in the past? What tricks did they leave behind?" Lu Jianghu did not even think about it, and said, "Other than Red Lotus Demon Venerable, there is no good thing. Besides, think about it, they have become Demon Venerables, how can they be good people? All of them are people who can be struck by lightning. If they left any tricks here, needless to say, it must be extremely dangerous." Chu Xiu thought about it, and it was indeed so. Danger was certain, so they could only be careful. Chu Xiu was still the first to take the lead. Among the people present, he was the strongest, and his skin was thick, so he had a stronger resistance to danger. Just as they entered the cave, they found a broken corpse in front of them. Lu Jianghu glanced at the formation under the corpse's feet, and sighed, "Reverse heavenly demon formation, all the true qi of those who enter the formation will be twisted into devil qi, and if they can't hold on, they will directly explode and die. This formation should have been drawn by Heartless or someone else with the power of qi and blood, and its power is even more powerful. Someone has already been hit. But this guy is not weak. He can actually struggle and completely tear the formation apart, but he also can't hold on, so he took the knife for you." Chu Xiu and the others walked along, and surprisingly, they did not encounter any dangerous things. But in fact, to be precise, there were extremely dangerous and vicious traps along the way, and Lu Jianghu knew all of them. They were all the tricks of the Kunlun devil cult in the past. Fortunately, almost all of Obscurus's good friends had sacrificed their lives to avoid these traps, which benefited Chu Xiu and the others. However, when everyone arrived at the bottom of the cave, the demonic aura became denser and denser. There was even a strong stench mixed within it. When Chu Xiu and the others walked to the end of the cave, they all gasped when they saw what was inside. At the end of the cave was a large hall, but at this moment, they could not see the scene inside the hall clearly. This was because the entire hall was covered by a huge black snake. That black snake was incomparably huge. Its waist was several feet thick, and because it was coiled up, its length was simply immeasurable. The most terrifying thing was that on top of the black snake's head, there were actually two horns faintly emerging, impressively a sign that it was about to transform into a flood dragon. In Obscurus memory fragments, he walked out of the cave, but he was still being chased by something. Now, it seemed that it was this thing that was chasing him. In Ying's memory fragments, he walked out of the cave, but he was still being chased by something. Now it seemed that it was this thing that was chasing him. The aura of this thing could be said to be terrifying. It could even make Chu Xiu feel a sense of oppression. At this time, Lu Jianghu was surprised, it's Xiaohei, but how did Xiaohei grow so big? Xiaohei? Lu Jianghe nodded and said, Xiaohei is the pet of Heartless Demon Venerable. It is said to be a giant python with the bloodline of the ancient Black Dragon. At that time, as long as someone provoked Heartless Demon Venerable, he would break their limbs and feed them to Xiaohei. In the end, this beast's mouth became picky, and it didn't eat anything below the real pellet state. But Xiaohei shouldn't be so big at that time. Beasts are different from humans. Even after 500 years, it is impossible to grow so big. As Lu Jianghe muttered, he suddenly saw a blood-colored mark on the black snake's forehead. His expression suddenly changed as he said, the Heartless Demon Venerable is using his heart's blood to feed Xiaohei. No wonder it has grown to this extent. As he said that, the black snake seemed to sense the movement outside. It slowly opened its eyes and looked at Chu Xiu and others. Lu Jianghe walked forward with a smile on his face and greeted, Xiaohei, do you still recognize me? I even killed 2 bald donkeys from the Great Light Temple to feed you. Heartless Demon Venerable said that the bald donkeys from the Great Light Temple have a chewy taste, and you like them the most. The black snake's scarlet vertical pupil stared at Lu Jianghe. The next moment, it opened its mouth, and a black venom burst directly at Lu Jianghe. Lu Jianghe's figure turned into a bloody light, and he immediately dodged. The black venom fell on the ground, and it actually corroded a huge pit. It was bottomless. One could imagine how terrifying the venom was. Chu Xiu looked at Lu Jianghe with a weird face. This is the Xiaohei you said? It doesn't seem to be familiar with you. Lu Jianghe said with a depressed face, it must be because of the Heartless Demon Venerable's heart's blood mark. Even if this beast has the Black Dragon bloodline, it is only a trace. It can't bear the Heartless Demon Venerable's heart's blood mark at all. You don't know how strong Heartless Demon Venerable is. With Ling Yunzi's virtue, Heartless Demon Venerable can kill him with one slap. This beast obtained the Heartless Demon Venerable's heart's blood, but it is unable to digest it. It must have heard its intelligence, and now it has completely gone crazy. As soon as Lu Jianghe finished speaking, the huge black snake swung its tail at him. Its power was overwhelming. If it was not for the fact that the cave was too small and affected its performance, it might have been able to shatter a mountain. Lu Jianghe and the rest dodged at the same time and attacked. However, they were depressed to find out that their attacks were almost useless. The defensive power of the black snake's scales was simply too shocking. Chu Wuji's crescent blade slashed on the scales, but it actually only brought out a spark. Wei Shuya and Lu Jianghe's attacks were also unable to penetrate the scales and cause any damage to it. Needless to say, Mei Qinglian, her beauty technique was useless against beasts. The evil moon saber appeared in Chu Xiu's hand and he attacked with all his might. The moment the saber intent of the break formula appeared, the unstoppable sharpness tore the black scales apart, causing a large amount of blood to spurt out. However, for an existence like the black snake, it was obviously not very useful. Instead, it made it even more violent. Chu Xiu furrowed his brows. With these beasts guarding the place, it was going to be extremely difficult to obtain the items within. After thinking about it, Chu Xiu leaped out and jumped directly on the head of the black snake. The next moment, the Vairocana seal appeared behind him. The Buddha's light bloomed in his hand, and he directly pressed the head of the black snake and pressed it to the ground. The black snake could not stop struggling. Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "Help me stabilize it." Lu Jianghe and the rest immediately used their strongest power to suppress the body of the black snake. In the next moment, Chu Xiu's punches landed on the black snake's body one after another. However, his punches weren't made of astral energy, but pure mind power. The black snake had the blood of the black dragon, so it had some special abilities. Its scales were not afraid of metal, earth energy, and could even defend against mind power. However, at this time, Chu Xiu directly attached the strongest mind power to his fists and blasted into the body of the black snake, causing its mind to tremble. The strong mind power continuously blasted into the body of the black snake, accumulating little by little. In the end, the mind power of the black snake was completely shattered. The black snake finally stopped struggling and fell to the ground. Although its eyes were still blood red, they were no longer fierce. It was extremely lifeless. Although it did not die, it had become a walking corpse. It was directly blasted into a plant snake by Chu Xiu. Everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. No one expected that this thing would be so difficult to deal with. After passing through the body of the black snake, everyone saw the deepest part of the cave, where two figures were sitting on the bronze throne. One was tall and thin, with a gloomy face, which made people shudder. The other person was an old man whose entire body was shrouded in a black robe. Although these two people were already dead, there was still a strong demonic aura emitting from their bodies. Although they were just corpses, people could still feel how strong they were when they were alive. Chu Xiu turned his gaze to Lu Jianghu and said, "Is it the heartless demon venerable?" Lu Jianghu nodded with a slightly complicated expression and said, "It is the heartless demon venerable and the heaven-weeping demon venerable. The heartless demon venerable is gloomy and ruthless. Although his battle strength is not the strongest among the four demon venerables, he is the one that the righteous sects do not want to fight. Because he is ruthless, because he is crazy, when he fights, he does not care about his life. In his eyes, there is no such thing as compromise, only life and death. Even in the Kunlun devil cult, most people do not dare to provoke him. It should be said that other than the sect leader, he does not have a good face to anyone. The one wrapped in the black robe is the heaven-weeping demon venerable. His seniority is very high. Before the sect leader was born, he was already a giant of the demonic path. However, the heaven-weeping demon venerable knows a lot of things. Back in the demonic path, the heaven-weeping demon venerable is known as the number 1 diviner, number 1 formation deduction, number 1 blacksmith, and number 1 alchemist. In short, he knows a lot of things. Even if he is not the number 1 in the world, no one in the demonic path dares to compare with him. The formation outside should be his masterpiece. I should have guessed it long ago. To be able to set up such a powerful formation before death, there is no one other than the heaven-weeping demon venerable. This old man is a good guy. If there is a problem with their weapon, he will not refuse to repair it. However, he has a bad habit. He always likes to chat with others. As he talks, he will start to bemoan the state of the universe and pity the fate of mankind. He will cry when he kills someone. After crying, he will continue to kill people. His crying makes me panic. When Lu Jianghu was talking about the two demon venerables, his emotions were a little complicated. The Kunlun devil cult has been destroyed for so many years. He was already mentally prepared. However, at this moment, when he saw the demonic experts who fought side by side with him in the past, at least he thought that he fought side by side with them and did not follow behind them to pick up people's heads. Now that he saw the two corpses, even if he was unreliable, he still felt a little sad. There was a feeling that things remain the same, but people have changed. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.